Us taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main award ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. I think Anora and the Brutalist I think they are leading across categories. Anora is, of course, a very...
Actor go out to Kieran Culkin. It was that and the Best Supporting Actress. Those are two categories where critics agreed on who could possibly win. Zoe Saldana is considered the shoo-in for Best Supporting Actress. So it wasn't entirely a surprise. I think that's fair to tell our audiences. Should we check in with the reporters now? Should we go into
I would love to do that. Let's actually go to Vishal and Titas, and we will see if we can get Shrishti live with us from LA as well. Vishal, about the awards that have been, in fact, called, were you hoping that these will be for the nominees in the Best Actor category for that matter, or was it something else for you?
Well, Best Supporting Actor has gone to Kieran Culkin for his beautiful performance in the film A Real Pain, and it was expected. He was winning all the precursors, so it's a very beautiful film and a very strong performance. It's about Holocaust. A Real Pain is a Holocaust remembrance film. It's a film about two cousins played by Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg, who's also the writer and director of A Real Pain. And Kieran Culkin really stood out in the film, especially the scene when it's a film about this Holocaust tour when these two cousins goes to Poland to connect with their roots. And to revisit their grandmother's house in Poland. Their grandmother is a Holocaust survivor, and the kind of meltdown Kieran Culkin has in the train is so memorable. It really changed the course of the film, and it's a very powerful performance. And it was expected that Kieran Culkin gonna win. And the other big surprise came of the evening when the Best Animation Film Flow won over the preferred one, that's the Wicked, the Wild Robo. Everybody was expecting that it's going to be Wild Robo. It's a beautiful film, streaming on Amazon Prime Video, was expected to win, but it's just Latvian film Flow, which actually also nominated in the Best International race to home the Oscar for the Best Animated Feature.
Right, and sorry, Toya, you were about to say something.
I was just going to say, we haven't talked yet about Anuja. We haven't talked at all about
Obviously, we must do that. But before we do that, since we were on the Indian connection, I really want to know from Titas, what has Conan O'Brien said in Hindi, addressing the Indian audiences?
I sort of jumped in my seat when I heard him saying Namaste, and he said something like कि मुझे पता है कि इंडिया में सुबह है और मुझे नाश्ता करना है, something like that. I think it has already broken X. I think people are talking about it, and it's so nice to hear it. Actually, I'm still thinking about it.
Titas is already distracting me. I'm just very, very nudged to just go to my X account and see what's happening. Please, Titas, go on.
Yeah, no, so that's what I'm saying. And I have to mention this. I think In the Shadow of the Cypress, which is an Iranian film, has taken the trophy for, I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, but best animated, film. And, I loved how the makers really dedicated the award to the Iranians who are suffering. And, this is basically the essence of what Oscars is, time and again, we have seen so many people going up on stage, accepting the honor and, making some really powerful statements. And, I think the makers have really set a precedent. And so, and yes, Toya, before this, I think you were discussing, I just want to chip in something about, which films we are rooting for. There's one more film I'm really rooting for, which happens to be The Substance.
Yes.
I absolutely loved that film. Yeah.
Wait, I think, Titas, it's incomplete if you don't tell your audiences why you like that film. I think, it's especially if Demi Moore gets the award tonight, it'll be such a beautiful arc for a film like that. For everything it stood for every older actress who's made that same argument that, after a certain age, it feels like I'm not visible anymore. For every actress who is above, I think, a certain age, tonight's Oscar, could mean just so much. Can you just tell us a little bit, Titas, about what The Substance is about and also why it's so exciting that we're seeing a horror film contend like this in a main category?
Oh, I think, the theme happens to be extremely relevant. Like you said, I think the fear of age is something we all as women grapple with, especially women actors. Because, unfortunately, I mean, we have come a long way, but unfortunately, the phrase shelf life is something that's only associated with women actors. And to actually be making a film on it, to have an age appropriate casting of sorts, taking a Demi Moore, I think, really kudos to the makers for that. And if you remember, the way Conan made his entry today on that stage, a bizarre, crazy entry, through Demi Moore's character in the substance. I think that basically shows, how much the film was talked about. And
Right.
I think it really became a pop culture reference, the film.
The substance, don't upset the balance. These were all the cues that you
Yes.
would hear on Twitter, in people's conversation. And you're
Yes.
right, it did enter just from this.
Let's also bring in Edward and Anusha since they are also with us. Edward, would you agree? Would you agree that Substance making it to one of the top honors and having so many nominations in its kitty, it's really one of the fine films to watch out for this particular year, and more so for Demi Moore.
Yeah, it's great to see a movie that really brings up such an important issue that in every country's industry, and not just in entertainment industry, but in life in general. There's that shelf life that is so unequal between genders that I can't wait to see the film. I love crazy, surreal kind of premises that bring up real issues. So I'm excited to see what happens with that tonight.
You can actually watch it. Let me just tell our audiences, that's a film it's available on streaming. It's available on Movie, I believe. So a lot of these films, Anora, we were talking about, never made its way down to India. Some films like Dune 2 made it to India, made pots and pots of money in India.
Yeah.
Let's just go over to Anusha to understand a little bit more from her too. Anusha, just if we could ask you a little bit more here. So we've talked in depth about the Best Actor. We were talking a little bit about the Oscar campaigns we've seen for Best Actor. We're talking about Demi Moore, and once again I want to touch on Best Actress. Of course, possibly could go to Demi Moore. That is the expected name. But the other name being talked about a lot is, of course, Mikey Madison for Anora. And just want to get your word in here. Mikey is obviously a younger actress. She's someone with a much newer career than Demi Moore. But just tell us a little bit about what you observed in the interactions, the press season for her. Just because for many people, this one seems like a toss-up. Critics weren't able to say which is the safe bet between the two of them for who's going to get this award.
Frankly, I'll root for Demi Moore, primarily because I understand the concept of this film. Growing old is horror for all of us. So in that sense, and she's brilliant, she's an amazing actress, and she's looking stunning more than all the other actresses out there. I mean, for me, everyone else doesn't matter. It's Demi Moore all the way.
I love that. And I also, it's so funny because as you were talking, we were showing visuals of Demi Moore on the right side. And she's looking gorgeous. She's wearing
stunning.
She's wearing Armani Privé and she's looking beautiful. But I was like, wait, us objectifying her right now when the film is about objectification.
Come on, let's
is it
objectify one
complicated?
another. Who are you wearing today, Toya? And who are we wearing? Because we also dressed for the occasions, covering the Oscars, presenting them, bringing all the news from the Oscars. So why don't we start from what we are wearing over here? Talk about fashion. Why not? We do that.
I totally agree with you. Shall we go back for a second back to Vishal and Titas, who are also joining us here? Let's just get some of their words here on this. I want to talk, Vishal, if you could tell us a little bit about the little Indian film that's made it. So we haven't talked at all about the one Indian film that is there. I keep referring to it as Indian because its backers are Indian. It's an Indian story, and it tells it's a heartwarming story that's based right here in Delhi. Vishal, tell us a little bit about the run the film has seen and why we're hearing Priyanka's name associated to it again and again.
Well, the film is actually produced by Mindy Kaling, and Priyanka Chopra is only backing it. It has an Indian producer attached, Guneet Monga to it. The film is likely to win. Will it win or not, we'll see in few minutes. But Mindy Kaling is somebody who's adored by the Academy, by the Hollywood. She is the force behind Have I Never, the famous Netflix show, or the current The Sex Life of.
Or The Office. She co-wrote The Office.
The Office as well. So he is somebody which is associated with, and going by Academy or Hollywood love for India, we are really hoping that they'll give this time to us. It's been a long time when an Indian film really won at the Oscars, like a film. The last joy India got from Oscar was the RR win, or the documentary that was again backed by Guneet Moga. But let's see if they give it to us or not. They've been giving Oscar. Hollywood has been doing special campaign for India. The actors endorse Indian audiences. Our actors are getting featured in Hollywood film. Hollywood clearly have an eye on India, really, and it really started in the last few years, where you'll see one Indian actor appearing either in a big show or in a film, and Priyanka Chopra is our big what do you call Hollywood flag
carrier, yeah.
Hollywood. The original screenplay is being announced right now, and let's see who backs that. Will it be Anora or the Brutalist? Let's see. We'll come to know in few minutes now. Yeah.
Fingers crossed,
Fingers
though,
crossed,
for
obviously.
Nuja to see a win there. And I think just for Indian audiences who are tuning in, that's the film that our fingers are crossed for tonight.
And since we are on the Indian audience, we also have to go back to the Conan O'Brien moment where he addressed India, and that too in Hindi. So let's in fact, take a look at exactly what he said on the Oscar stage, and what was that Hindi all about? Was it a nashta conversation? Was it a namaste? What was it all about? Let's see.
Okay, we'll just play out that moment for our audiences in a second. I do want to point out, though, we're all acting very surprised. Conan O'Brien is a Harvard graduate. He's a man who's known for just how brilliantly he writes. So I was not surprised at all.
He was also called out for his grammatical incorrectness once by Jennifer Garner, and that snide comment was taken against him being Harvard educated. So we would see all of those moments, right?
Yeah.
So
and
that is going
known,
to be,
for his great writing. This is a gig that comedians look forward to for their whole lives. It's the night that could make or break them, and it's looked at, and I just want to touch on that for a second. Didas, just touch on this for a second, because this night, we're talking about the big awards that will go out, but for the host, it's also a make or break night, because hosting can be a very different set of skills from just being a stand-up comedian. We've seen someone like Ellen DeGeneres take her relationship with all of the actors to another level with that selfie. That was something she could do because she was so comfortable with celebrities, and that was the viral moment that we saw everywhere across the world. So from hosts, who are hosts that stand out to you, Titas, in the last few years?
I think before that, I think Conan is an absolute natural. Yeah. His camaraderie with everyone. He's really funny, I think. And when you mentioned the Jennifer Garner thing, I remember it popping up on my social media just a day ago, where they were having a conversation on the word snuck. That was the word, right?
yes.
Sneak and snuck.
Is it
Yeah.
sneaked or is it snuck?
Snuck.
Yeah.
It is sneaked.
Oh, it's not snuck?
It could be snuck, but I think better is sneaked.
He pulled out a dictionary and he showed Jennifer Garner that the word snuck exists in the dictionary.
yeah, it's
So it's a
very
very
funny.
good word. Yeah, so that.
right.
But listen, I know there was a whole brouhaha that happened over Will Smith, but he was really good. He was.
I forgot all. How can we talk about hosting and controversial hosts and
Without
just
the punching?
everything that goes without the punching?
Absolutely.
But, talking about, and let's keep the controversies aside for a bit, but Vishal, I'd also want to understand all the people who win the Oscars. We always look for that moment when it is about the Oscar speech, especially the best actor and best actress. We had seen for the Golden Globes the kind of emotional address that Demi Moore had, where she said she'd never won an award, in so many years of her acting career. Do we see, or which speech do you think is going to stand out, for the sake of preempting this time around?
Well, I think the standing ovation movement of the evening will come if Diane Warren, who is actually nominated in the best original song category, if she wins, she's being waited. This is her 16th nomination. So if she wins, that's going to be the moment of the evening. Having said that, Demi Moore is of course had made her mark and that made a memorable speech, and she's likely to win because it's a comeback story that everybody in Hollywood loves. But I just want to tell our viewers that the best original screenplay was back like few minutes ago, is backed by Sean Baker for the film Anora.
Wow.
And if you look at the best original screenplay category, all these the writers who are nominated in this category are also the director of the film. Sean Baker, of course, took it for Anora, and it's a beautiful film. A lot of people were expecting it gonna go to the Brutalist, but I think that Anora is a film that picked up and gained momentum in the last phase of Oscar voting. So a lot to look forward to. And coming back to speeches, of course, Oscar will always remembered for either the funny movement, the funny speeches by hosts, or by speeches made by the winners. Be it Robert Benigni winning the best actor and the way he climbed on the seats when he reached the stage, or others. Okay, now let me there's a new winner is being announced in the best adapted screenplay. We'll tell our viewers in a minute from now. So it's very important, and it's a televised ceremony. So, and Conan has already won with his opening monologue that I'm gonna take maximum time. So keep your speeches short. But yes, it really makes a difference when you give a memorable speech, because it will go down in history as Bong Joon-ho said in his winning speech. If you look at over an inch over the subtitle, there's a film with a beating heart that you'll be viewing. So of course, speeches really matter.
Vishal, we'll just come back to you in a second as you give us the next update. I just want to tell our audiences, as you can see, Vishal is taking in the Oscars live right now. He's bringing us
something that we can't do.
But he's bringing us his take. So Vishal, do keep doing that. Titas, if we could just come over to you then and ask you, I want to ask you a very tricky question. We've just heard who got the best screenplay. How much of a prediction are screenplay and director? Because growing up, I always thought it was funny when the best director went to someone else and the best Oscar went to for the best film went to someone else. I was like, aren't those one and the same thing in a sense? How can you award someone best director and not give them best film? But how much of a prediction are they? Have you seen in the past?
Toya, I think it's always a mixed bag. You can't really predict these things. Sometimes, the one you're predicting, they walk away with the trophy home, and at other times, you're like, oh, I didn't expect this happening. But I think we saw this coming with Anora, at least, for this particular category. And, one, I just made history, guys. By the way, I think Paul Tazwell won the best costume designer. He's the first black man to win this.
Wow, that's
Wicked. Yeah.
That's historic. And Cynthia Erivo, she's been wearing his look. She and Ariana Grande, that costume design and the pink and green, and how we saw pink and green everywhere after that. Titas, if you want to touch on that, because everything from Starbucks, to just like people posting memes where they'd put a pink and a green thing together and they'd be like, yeah, these two colors now, Wicked is reminding us of it. So that costume design, what he brought to the costumes, really, really pushing the film to another level.
Oh, completely agree with you. The colors are now synonymous with Wicked. I also think there was a really good, PR machinery working with Wicked, because, the interviews, I think the clips of, Cynthia and Ariana, their friendship, their camaraderie, it's like all over social media. And it's good to see that kind of sisterhood, especially between two women actors. Why I say this is because there's a lot of, I think, misconception about, the equation between two women. But I think they have really broken that, defied those things.
They went on the other end.
Also, I just want to say that, the best adapted screenplay has been won by Conclave.
Nice. Okay.
That was a film that was winning BAFTA and SAG Awards, and it really cemented its place as a winner for the best adapted screenplay. It's a film which has a lot of talking in it. There are a lot of people are talking. There's a voting happening. They want to select a new pope between various cardinals, and it's played of course the main actor in it is Ralph Fiennes, and then he's talking to Stanley Tucci, who is a just progressive cardinal. And then there's ultra-conservative traditional cardinals played by Malini Stanley Tucci. Sorry, I'm just mixing the name. But this is Anora has won the best adapted screenplay. And now let's see if this translates into film winning the best picture. We'll come to know, and it's a big indicator, by the way, if the film wins the screenplay. Also, we have to look forward to the best editing. Historically speaking, if you see last year, Oppenheimer that won the best picture, it also bagged the best editing. So whoever wins best editing, that's a big indicator of that film likely to win best picture.
So, Vishal, quickly, how many categories have been announced so far, and who are the winners?
So the original screenplay and adapted screenplay and the best animation film. So the best adapted screenplay went to Anora. Best original screenplay went to Sean Bay. Best adapted screenplay went to Conclave. Best original screenplay went to Anora. The best animated feature went to Flow. It's a beautiful Latvian film. And there's also the best costume, I think, went to Wicked. And the best supporting actor went to Karen Culkin. And we're waiting for who now gets best supporting actress. In all likelihood, it's going to be Zoe Saldana. She's favorite of the campaign, and she's a front runner in that category. I don't think anybody else going to win. She is really this. She's an actress with an experience of 25 years. She's been part of many blockbusters, including Avatar. She's the Gamora from Guardian of the Galaxy, and she's been part of Pirates of the Caribbean films. And we're really hoping this is, I think, her award. She also performed the song, and so as the song Elma from the Emilia Perez, which is also likely to win.
Okay, let's just go back to our guest for a second, Vishal Titas. We're going to give you a few seconds to get up to date with everything that's taking place on the screens right now. Edward, can we have you back for a second? Edward, you were part of the RRR cast, and I just want to ask you, RRR brought India on a global stage in a way that we hadn't seen in the years before that. And it did it in what felt, frankly, as an Indian audience member, a very authentic way. In an Indian language, in an Indian way, in which, for example, when I saw Slumdog Millionaire, I didn't feel the same way that, with RRR one was able to feel. Edward, the moment where we saw Conan speak Hindi, how did you see that? Did you see that as an acknowledgement of just all of the Indian audiences who are tuned in right now, but also the huge market that India has become for Hollywood?
Yeah, it was great, first of all, to see an Indian film like RRR make such waves, because unlike Slumdog Millionaire, it was truly an Indian film, in every sense, in its aesthetics, in its whole demeanor. So, and it totally won over the whole world. So I think ever since then, we've been seeing, a little more, at least, gradually we're seeing more and more awareness and attention to India's contribution to cinema. And we see it in little ways, like tonight. I just was, Uncle Google's telling me that he said when he said namaste in reference to India, he said, so you're getting nashte ke saath Oscars, which is cute. It's fun. We always love it when we hear little shout outs.
I must say, Edward, your Hindi is good too. But Anusha, what do you have to say about what we see so far at the Oscars? Especially these clips these little grabs that we are playing. We do see Conan O'Brien doing some sort of a skit and a performance. We have a Deadpool look-alike. So performance also really speak at the Academy Awards. Are you looking forward to any? Maybe the performance by Cynthia and Ariana for that matter. That is also the talk of the town, considering Wicked has won so many nominations.
See, I'm looking forward to the whole Oscars as such, but I just want to add a bit about when people speak in Hindi and acknowledge India, they do not just acknowledge the audiences, they acknowledge the fact that Indian cinema has reached global heights.
Right.
RRR was a typical Indian film. It was not something that was out of the way, or we made something which went for a global audience. It was a film that was an Indian film which was consumed by global audiences, appreciated and awarded. So that speaks a lot about our cinema that is going on.
Right.
Like Priyanka standing for Anuja makes a very big difference, because then suddenly it's not about you and me, it's about us and how we make a difference. And the story of Anuja, just like you were talking about Emilia Perez, is a story which is emotional. It's about heart. It's about how you feel when you watch a film. The emotions make a very big difference, and the host, it represents that emotion, which reflects in the films later. He's an amazing host, but when he speaks in Hindi and he talks about Nashta, which is something that you and I would probably speak in our colloquial language early morning, that speaks for the fact that Indian cinema and Indian audiences are being appreciated, lauded, and accepted the world over, which speaks for milestones for our film, because we are one of the largest producers of films in the world.
Right, and I think, Anusha, you've touched on this so beautifully because, you know, in the 80s and 90s, Indian films were already to some degree celebrated abroad. So, you know, if you travel to Russia, Afghanistan, you'd have people reciting back dialogues from films. You know, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, for example, was such a famous example of that. But with RRR, with films like this receiving mainstream acknowledgement, you're right, it does taste, it does feel different. We'll return to this moment. Shrishti right now is on the red carpet, and when we say the red carpet, we do mean in Los Angeles. She's bringing us live coverage of everything that's taking place right now, and she covers this moment. Take a look.
Oh my God, what a way to kick off Hollywood's biggest night. Ariana Grande opened the 97th Academy Awards with a breathtaking performance of Somewhere Over the Rainbow from Wicked. She looked absolutely stunning in that red gown, and though I would love to know how long it took her to change out of the big pink dress she wore on the red carpet and that duet with her Wicked co-star Cynthia Erivo. I mean, it was absolutely breathtaking. They both look gorgeous, and honestly, I can't remember a better Oscars opening. Let's talk about Conan O'Brien. I'd say he exceeded all expectation as host tonight. I would say, can we just go ahead and renew his Oscars contract already? His entrance alone was quite mind-boggling. He literally crawled out of Demi Moore's body like a scene straight out of the Substance film, and his energy, oh my God, he was terrific. His self-deprecating humor, it was all spot on. And let me tell you, the entire press room was cheering and laughing during his monologue. Of course, he didn't shy away from the biggest controversy of the night. He took a dig at Emilia Perez star Carla Sophia Gaskin's offensive social media post by joking that Honora broke the record for the most F words in a film, but only by 3 more than Gaskin's publicist. I think Gaskin took it in stride, and she also made a prayer hand gesture. Then obviously Conan landed another punchline saying, Carla, if you're going to...
Co-powered by MDH Degi Mirch Ka Tadka, Ang Ang Phadka, MDH Ki Degi Mirch. Headache. Experience magical interior solutions in association with Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra.
How we as an industry continue to grapple with the whole specter and the promise of AI. It's kind of gives me a lot of anxiety as an actor to see what's going on with AI, and you know, my heart goes out to anyone who's caught up in any controversy around all the pitfalls.
Right. Anusha, you were saying something. Would you actually call this a controversy, or do you think it's tough luck on part of the film to have just gone through it? Because when it is about voice modification and stuff, the industry has been associated with things like this in the past as well, whether it is here in India or abroad.
It's just tough luck. Otherwise, it was the best contender. It was always the darling till we went into that space where the controversy came and sort of brought it down the list, you know. But the other films are as good. So you have Anura and you have the Brutalist. They're as good. So.
Okay.
Honora is a very, very beautiful film. It's a heart-wrenching film. I think that's maybe the right word to use here. Honora is a young woman. She's a sex worker, and it's a film that'll really, really endear her to you. If we could just take a second, Edward, Anusha, just to explain to our audiences, we'll take a second and then we'll come back to you. How does voting for the Oscars actually work? So, for most of the award categories, it's just regular voting. You go in there, you put in your vote. But when it comes to the best film, which is the biggest award of the night, there is ranking that takes place. So what happens? You go in to cast your ballot, you say number 1, number 2, number 3, the films that you think most deserve it. And the final film, after you rank them, is just the one that collects the most votes. So it's a little bit more complicated than the rest of the voting. But what actually happens is it means that you can end up having surprises, and it would be a huge surprise. Welcome back. This is the Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars as they're taking place right now in Los Angeles, and we're just a few moments away from a very exciting moment that just took place in LA. That's Conan O'Brien, and what did he finally say? We have,
you know, the fact that we're going on about it because we don't want to lose out on that little aspect that India has missed, making it to the Indian language film as far as the Oscars category is concerned. So any India connection is welcome. Conan O'Brien has ended up speaking in Hindi, addressing the Indian audiences. That's how important India is world over and globally. We have our guests, Edward and Anusha, who are with us constantly. Edward, not meaning you, in fact, we have told that there's no Edward right now. Edward is going to be joining us back in a bit, but Anusha is there with us. Anusha, you know, I know we have been talking about Conan O'Brien speaking to the Indian audiences and, you know, directing that comment of his in Hindi specifically. He was well rehearsed, you know, to speak about the chai and nashta bit. I know you've spoken about it, but, you know, what do you perceive, you know, that statement really is coming from, considering India missed out on its little chance, other than Anuja, to make it to the Oscars? So do you think this really makes up, or do you think it's really important? Because India at the global platform, especially at the Oscars, the run-ins have been too many. We've got presenters in the past. We've had a Priyanka Chopra who has presented it. We've had a Deepika Padukone who has been one of the Oscar presenters. And we have a film like RRR, or to some extent a Slumdog Millionaire, A.R. Rahman winning it. The India connection is too much to miss at the Oscars.
India connection has begun, I think, with Mother India entering in 1956, you know.
Absolutely.
And Satyajit Ray obviously making his mark. And Banu Attaya being the first costume designer to win an Oscar and bring it home. So we have had a very nice history with Oscars. It's just that now, if we don't win an Oscar also, we are still there and our presence is felt. Like Emilia Perez, you can't undermine it, no? Whether it wins, it doesn't win. The film has made its mark, and it will always be remembered. Because one small thing here and there, there's a hit and miss, but the one who's entered is always a winner. Because we have gone in there and we've worked very hard on this space, and our films are making a global presence. But what I love about it is we don't have to make offbeat films to get there anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have to make films that appeal to the world. They come to us and they have fun. I mean, he didn't, he said nashta, no? He said chai. I'm sure we're all hungry right now. But other than the fact that him stating chai and nashta coming down to the level of, you know, as simple as a breakfast, it shows for the kind of audiences in India that are being looked at abroad, the kind of films, the appreciation, and the fact that we belong. That
absolutely, Anusha. In fact, Toya, we are just putting out that little statement of Conan's, what he exactly said. Namaskar, नाश्ते के साथ Oscar कर रहे हैं आप लोग. So that is specifically addressing the Indian audience. He knows how many people here in the country are watching the Academy Awards this time around, and that's how important this makes it.
And that's the other thing. It's not just that our films are now making it. It's the fact that Indian audiences financially represent so much to Hollywood studios. And we'll talk about that in just a second. I do want to point out, Namaskar, नाश्ते के साथ Oscar कर रहे हैं आप लोग. It's like an uncle who knows exactly what we're doing right now. Let's just go back very quickly to Titas. We'd like to thank Anusha for joining us, for bringing us all her perspective. Titas, if we could just come over to you. So Titas and Vishal, remember, have been tracking this for us. Vishal, as you can see, keenly tracking each development right now. No, Vishal, we're not disturbing you yet.
Vishal doesn't want to look at the screen. He's just there. Oh, I don't want to miss anything.
but Titas, tell us. I want to go further on this point. point, what we were talking on earlier, the fact that India has come to represent such a rich market for Hollywood films. Now, you've always had certain cinemas, Titas, in the years, so right from the early 90s that were showing, in Delhi and Mumbai, that always showed Hollywood films. But in the last few years, we've seen the market increase. One of the films that we can talk about right now is Dune 2. Dune 2 had a huge mark in India when it comes to box office reap. Just tell us, Titas, in the other nominees, what are the other films that left a mark on Indian audiences, that Indian audiences would resonate with, a win they would resonate with right now because they've probably watched the film?
Yeah, I think Dune 2 for sure, because I think it has also received a nomination in the Best Special Effects category, and interestingly, it's an Indian company that has done
India,
it.
Let's just stop you for a second. India has so many huge special effects, VFX houses based out of Hyderabad, Bangalore, and that's been so exciting too. Sorry, Tita, sorry to cut you off. Just wanted to share that.
No, of course. So I think that's a huge honor for us. DNEG, which is Namit Malhotra's VFX company. So I think Dune really does have a massive fan base in India. Anuja, of course, for sentimental reasons, we are rooting for it. I also see, a lot of Indian fans, they have watched The Substance, because I think it was easily available on streaming, unlike most other films. And for obvious reasons, it has struck a chord with the Indian audience, with, I'm sure, a lot of Indian actors as well.
Right. Also, Vishal, the fact that we were earlier talking about not just the Oscar moments in the name of what these people who go up, end up winning the GOG, really go and say on the stage, but we also have to understand about the kind of backing that all of these ventures really have. And since we are on the India connection and we are talking about Anuja, we have to talk about Guneet for that matter. She's made it to the ceremony. What is it that she has in fact said in the past about her association with Anuja, and are we looking forward to speaking with her anytime soon?
Well, that we probably will try to connect with her. But talking about, like you said, backing, it's very important to have the right studio or the company backing you. If you see a film called I'm Still Here, which is likely to a big threat in the Best International Feature category, is backed by Sony Picture Classics. These are the companies like Fox Searchlight, Sony Picture Classics. They will ensure the film has been viewed by the right people. Remember, sometimes it's not about the best picture, might not be the best picture. It's the best campaign that wins the Oscar. And going by the buzz, if you see, Emilia Perez had a strong force behind it when it bagged 13 nominations. And then trade was disturbed when the tweets of its leading actor, Sofia Galdo-Gaskin, appeared online, and then it was the Brutalist that became the favorite, and then Anora picked up in the last phase of voting. So it's all about the campaign, how you campaign your film, what you say in the public. It's a social media world, and remember, Oscar voting works on consensus. People discuss which is whom are we voting, because remember, there are over 100 films which are sent from across the world, say in the Best International category, but only 15 get shortlisted. In that 100, there must be few more which deserve to be in that list, but could not make because it was not viewed by the right people. In the case of Lala Patla Ladies, we saw they had a big campaign in Hollywood. Amir Khan went, met people. Amir Khan is somebody who's endured and loved by Hollywood because of the Lagan. I just also want to give a big update right now to our viewers that Best Makeup and Hairstyling Oscar went to The Substance. And that's a big indication.
I was hoping it got that. I was really hoping that Substance would end up winning in that category. But Titas, does it come in as a surprise, or were you expecting this?
Well, because
yes,
it simply means Demi Moore is going to be the winner of the Best Actress Oscar. It's a big connection, because last year, if you see, the Emma Stone won the Best Actress award, and for Poor Things, and Poor Thing also was the winner in the Best hair and makeup category.
Oh, that's an interesting connection. Vishal, how did you end up drawing
not
that?
the most obvious one
Yeah.
at all. Titas, if we could ask you, Vishal was talking a few seconds ago about campaigns that we've seen different actors do. And let's just tell our audiences. So typically before the Oscars play out, you see actors engage in a long blown campaign, almost, softly saying that they want to get the Oscar. And Timothée this year with his social media campaign has been it's been a charm offensive in some way. But Titas, compare that for us, for example, with someone like Mikey Madison, who doesn't even have social media at all, which in today's day and age, for someone who, right now is in best Oscar actor contention for the actress category, she doesn't even have a social media. How do you see that? Just how we're seeing social media play into all of this?
Toya, I think to each their own. Like for Mikey, she doesn't, like you said, have a lot of social media presence, but I think she already has a lot of fans rooting for her. She's proved herself clearly. And Timothée, on the other hand, we definitely cannot take away how brilliant an actor he is. And that coupled with the kind of social media presence that he has, that definitely, of course, amps his game up. And yes, interestingly, I think for Timothée, he has a lot of fan base, I think, in India also. If he wins today at all, the best actor for A Complete Unknown, I think he's going to be the youngest actor at 29 to actually be winning an Oscars. The best actor in that particular category. Yes. And as we speak, I think the makers of the Bond franchise, they have been honored with a special award. The Governor's Award, which has gone to Barbara and her half-brother Michael. They are the producers of the Bond film. And this was long due, right? The Bond film, the Bond franchise, it's popular. It's a global franchise, Every country, I think, everyone has watched it. We love it. And yes, I am now looking forward. You know what I'm looking forward to right now? The best supporting actress. Because, we are rooting for that one person, and let's see what happens.
Wait, are we
It's
talking
Zoe
about,
Saldana.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we talking about Zoe Saldana? But that's a pretty safe one, is it not, Titas? It's from everything I've read, it's a pretty
Everybody's
safe
rooting
category.
for,
Right. No, and it's just something where she's won every award in the run-up.
And we were just discussing about it, Titas, that, there's so much of controversy that has been associated because of the film's lead actor for this particular film, Amelia Perez, that it is Zoe Saldana who would come out as a martyr. The studio is now supporting her because they do not want to, for obvious reasons, stay on their associations with the lead actor in this particular case because of the controversy associated with her tweets. So do you think Zoe Saldana is also getting the better end of the deal because of that controversy? Obviously not taking anything away from her acting prowess.
It's a very tricky question, we have to be very honest. Yes, in the beginning, I think we all had our hopes pinned on Amelia Perez. It is, of course, it became popular and things like that. But I think then, slowly it opens, like a can of worms. It was like that. But I'm happy to see that Sophia is definitely there today. And, not just about how her social media sort of, people went back to her social media in 2020. There were racist, Islamophobic comments and all of that was there. Interestingly, the film also received a lot of backlash in Mexico because, they felt that they sort of trivialized the drug violence that was projected in the film. And but I think Zoe did a brilliant job in the film. And I feel, at the end of the day, the Oscar stands for recognizing good performances. And she gets honored today, for what she really brought to the table.
Also, Titas, since you also teased that entire Bond connection, we also have an India association because most of us here in India started off, watching films when it is about the great Hollywood was with a Bond film, particularly. Absolutely. So that also makes it really significant, don't you think, Titas?
100%. I completely agree with you. Look at the footfalls every time a Bond film releases here in India. Giving a stiff competition to our Hindi releases, and this has happened time and again. I mean, really booked my tickets for the first day, first show of every Bond film that releases in India. And I'm running to the theatre, and more often than not, it has always been houseful.
See, I'm excited for this, but I'm also curious as to who, and I mean, we're stepping away from the Oscars for a second by discussing this, but I'm curious to see who's going to be the next James Bond. Because now that we know that, you know, Daniel Craig has stepped down in this manner, they're looking for a new face.
Which one is your favorite Bond film, though?
Daniel Craig is my favorite Bond, though you weren't asking. But I was going to say Henry Cavill, you know, is one of the people whose names is coming up a lot as a possible next Bond. Some are saying it's finally time for a person of colour, so that's also been the... Sorry,
there was a Idris Alba thing that, you know, probably he's going to... Yes.
Best editing has gone to Sean Baker Anora.
Wow.
That clearly means that's the film going
Anora
to win the
wins another. Yeah, okay.
That would be incredible. All right, let's...
Because I tell you what, best editing is a big indication of the film winning the best picture. Last year, it was Oppenheimer that won best editing, and it went to the Oppenheimer last year. This year, it's a big indication. So I think Brutalist, I don't think the Brutalist now has a chance of winning the best picture, or it could be Conclave. But going by the trend, or historically speaking, of the Oscars, I think it's going to be Anora Day, and Anora going to, of course, win the best picture. Sean Baker is, of course, also the editor. It's Anora the one.
You know, I love how Vishal is like a thesis on this. He has his theories in place when it is about what happened the last time, and this is what the connection is. He's completely ruled out Brutalist now winning the big gog. I mean, Vishal, you know,
it's like we're all casting bets.
We'll probably tally our prediction in the end of the show, but historically speaking, the trend, if you see...
Absolutely. Vishal, I would come back to you. We have Ricky Kez, who is now joining us on the broadcast. Ricky, we have to begin by asking you. There was a very important address to the Indian audiences by Conan O'Brien. First of all, what do you have to say about that?
To be honest, I just started watching the telecast, so I'm not aware of it. I'm going to go back.
He said
and check it out now.
He essentially referred to Indian audiences and said, "Ki abhi aap sab nashta kha rahe ho." You know, this is the time where you're eating breakfast while you're watching the awards, and it was beautiful just to see him bring out some.
And all of it in Hindi, Ricky. That is what is more interesting. That's how important India is.
It's a global brand that you, Ricky. I just want to tell our audiences, Ricky Kedge, someone who's won Grammy Awards multiple times. Ricky, you have taken Indian music, elevated it to another level. When you create world music, you've taken music, you use it psychologically too. You've elevated it to a new form, and I'm only telling our audiences that because you've taken it to a global stage, and you've done what we've been talking about right now, which is how we're seeing India in a new light with something like RRR2. We were talking about this a little while ago, how we saw RRR open up for the rest of the world what it is that authentically Indian actually means, and just how exciting that has been for all of us. But Ricky, if we can get you to comment on your domain of expertise for a second, music, best original score. We were all very excited to see the Wicked performance. That's what we were talking
yes.
about.
Are you excited for that too, Cynthia and Ariana together on stage?
No, of course, really excited about that. And John Powell, I think he's really paid his dues, and I think he should definitely, I'm really rooting for him to actually win for the original score. And I think Wicked is a musical film, absolutely deserves to win.
And what are the performances? And Toya just mentioned about the original score. Are you surprised that this time original song is not going to be performed on the Oscar stage, Ricky?
So that has always been contentious for the last almost like 10 years, I would say. If you remember the time when A.R. Rahman was nominated for Slumdog Millionaire, they had reduced the time limit given to each of the performers for actually performing the original song. There were only 3 nominees that year. There was Peter Gabriel, and there were 2 nominations by A.R. Rahman for the same film, that is Slumdog Millionaire. So they said that all 3 songs have to be played in a single medley, and that's why Peter Gabriel walked out of protest, and he decided that he's not going to perform at the Oscars. And A.R. Rahman ended up performing all 3 songs. So it's always been contentious about this. The Oscars has always tried to get rid of the performances when it comes to the best song nominees, but I'm always in disagreement of that, because I believe that it is the best song nominee performances that actually uplifts the award ceremony completely.
Right, and it gives you something different. I just want to tell our audiences, Ricky, stay with us for a second. Zoe Saldana has just won Best Supporting Actress. As we speak, she's on stage giving her speech for it, and we were just discussing over here for a minute how she is someone who, she and actually Kieran Culkin, who was Best Supporting Actor, both were were shoo-ins for this category. They were both expected to win. They were safer bets, unlike the best actor and the best actress and the best film, where there are lots of bets on the table still. These are categories where people thought, okay, all right, this seems like a safe bet. And she's actually giving quite a tearful speech right now from the stage. We did just want to cut away for our audiences and tell them that for a second. Ricky, if we could just come back to you and ask you a more technical question for a second. Walk us through the process of making a score for a film. We were talking a bit right now about what it actually takes. Now, this time you have a film like Wicked. Wicked is something where defying gravity, these are all known classical numbers. So how much of a role does someone come in there, like, a composer when they're doing something there with already pre-created pieces versus a film like Anora, for example, where there's an entirely original soundtrack?
So I think, in my opinion, the process would definitely start with John Powell and Steven Schwartz trying to figure out what is it that made the score iconic in the first place. Pull out all of those elements, have numerous discussions with the director and the filmmakers to figure out what is it that they're doing to make the film itself more relevant for today's generation, and then apply that to the music. Because it would be very important to understand that even though the music has been iconic in the previous iteration, it may not work for this generation. So what we have to figure out is that what are those emotions which held and captivated the audiences the previous time, and bring out the same emotions this time, and not necessarily with the same style of music. But at the same time, the nostalgia needs to remain. So it's a very, very tight rope that the composers have to walk to figure out what is it that brings in the nostalgia, what is it that brings in the iconism of the previous film, but at the same time applies to a new generation. And then, of course, working on it, figuring out what is it that they can get away with if they change, what is it that they cannot get away with if they change, and then creating the score. But a majority of the work will start once the edit of the film itself is ready, because then they are reacting to the visuals and they're reacting to the actual the actual film that has been created, and and then it becomes a lot more easier and a lot more fruitful for the composers to work on the film while they are watching the edit itself.
And Ricky, since we are on performances, if we go back the memory lane, so far, the best one for you at the Oscars, which one has it been?
When it comes to score?
Yes.
I think lots of them. I think Hans Zimmer winning for Lion King, I think that was absolutely beautiful. Every single time that John Williams has won for Best Score, I think that is amazing. I think A.R. Rahman's acceptance speech when he won for Slumdog Millionaire, I thought that was absolutely beautiful, where he goes up on stage and he says that all of my life I've had a choice between love and hate, and I chose love, and I'm here on this stage today. So I thought there have been a lot of iconic moments when it comes to the Oscar for best score.
And what about performances? Do you think A.R. Rahman takes the cake?
I think he does, because he had got nominated for 2 songs that particular year, for Osaya and for Jai Ho. I think the performance of RRR, I think Natu Natu was also absolutely fantastic. There have been lots of other performances, like Adele performing, Skyfall. We saw a little bit of that just now.
Yeah.
And also, my all-time favorite performance for best song at the Oscars has been Eminem for Lose Yourself, where he actually performed it more than 10 years after he actually won the award, because he wasn't available for the performance the year that he actually won. And then he ended up performing it, I think, 2 years ago as a complete surprise performance. So that was absolutely stunning when that happened.
It's so much fun when it happens on stage, and I feel like it shakes up the... there's such decorum when it comes to the Oscars, because they are the Oscars. So I just feel like the live music performances give everyone a chance to loosen up a little. Ricky, we're going to come back to you.
Even Robin Williams, when he performed Blame Canada. So that was a very inappropriate song for the ceremony, and then he goes up on stage and he performs that song.
But that's what makes them iconic. Okay, Ricky, we're going to ask you to stay with us. Please stay with us. I just want to read out to our audiences for a second. So Zoe Saldana went on stage, as we were just telling our audiences. She collected the award for Best Supporting Actress. It was a tearful speech. We're going to read out a quote to you in a second. But as she was reading, she just kept looking out to her husband, her partner, who was in the audience. He kept looking up at her. They were both crying, wiping away tears for actors, this is their career's work finally being reported. And what she said in her speech was that I'm a child of an immigrant set of parents with dreams and dignity and hard-working hands. Remember, this is an important message at this political time for the US. She said, I'm the first American of Dominican origin to accept an Academy Award, and I know I will not be the last. I'm so happy that I'm getting an award for a role where I got to sing and speak in Spanish. Again, very, very pointed. My grandmother, if she were here, she would be delighted. And it's from my grandmother, Argentina, se say, thank you so much. Muchas gracias. Speaking Spanish in that bigger manner on a stage in this political moment where there has been so much said about immigration across the border. All of this is very, very symbolic. We're going to be heading into a quick break. On the other side, The Breakfast Club continues to bring you wall-to-wall coverage of the Oscars. Do stay with us.
सस्ते वाले दाल मसाले स्वाद हुआ बेकार MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल रंग दे ये खुश
Maybe Adrien Brody winning the best actor for his role in The Brutalist.
Oh, you're sure of that? All right, we'll discuss
He's
that in a
already,
bit.
yeah. Titas, we will come to you in just a bit. And Vishal was just talking about Conan O'Brien. Of course, he's also claimed that that's the most expensive and the most fine tux that he's worn. As far as that Oscars is concerned, the Oscar suit that he's wearing, he plans to take that home. So that's Conan O'Brien for all of us. But before we come to Titas, let's actually play out this, in fact, report that Shrishti, our colleague, is filed straight from LA for us from the Dolby Theater. She's talking about what to look ahead as far as the Academy Awards this year are concerned. Let's take a look at that report first.
Hello. The excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access. Multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan beaches along the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air. And it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits. Are absolutely.
It is really exciting.
It's so much fun. Yeah, let's keep going.
It is fun. The fact that we have just seen how Zoe Saldana has won the award for Best Supporting Actress, given that really, really emotional speech on the at the Oscar stage. Toya, did it remind you in any way to that speech of Halle Berry's when she won the Best Actor?
Oh, how beautiful. And I love that comparison because
Yeah.
when she won the award, it was historic, obviously
Yes.
for different reasons.
Yes.
I think with Halle, we were so excited for her to win, and then she went on. She, of course, looked like a total babe and, had that award in her hand, and it was a tearful speech. Zoe, actually, that comparison between the two of them has been made before. But this, I think, the fact that she chose to highlight a political note, it was very pointed.
Yes.
And to be honest, with our audiences, this is the most you're going to see politics brought in. Politics stays away from the Oscars largely, apart from larger conversations around diversity that we've seen.
If you don't have a Meryl Streep, that is winning the award.
But apart from diversity and inclusion that we've seen such a large conversation around, and we've seen the Oscars address it over the last few years in a big way. But this might be the most symbolic moment in that sense that we might see tonight. So,
But what you
this
have
could
to
be
say,
interesting.
Toya, since we were on political speeches or anything remotely political that's being said on the Oscar stage, very recently we saw something unprecedented happen at the White House. Do you think any of that would find mention in any way at the Oscars?
I don't think so. I can see your smile right now. But the only reason I don't think so is I think that actors, cinematographers, filmmakers, they work their lives for this moment. So I think even when they do put out a message, they are very calculated and particular that even the message doesn't, overtake their own journey, their
Absolutely.
story. For someone like Zoe, as we've been talking about, Emilia Perez, And we'll just highlight this for our audiences. Emilia Perez is a film that had 13 nominations. It was, if you just look at the films that have had the most nominations, La La Land, for example, that was just one nomination more. So it went into award season highly awarded. Had this last minute, I shouldn't call it last minute, it's actually lasted months, but this had this huge full-blown controversy play out with the lead actress in the film. And you had Zoe Saldana caught between a rock and a hard place where she had to address those comments. Netflix, the production house, has addressed those comments. But at the same time, obviously, she wanted to see her own campaign be successful. And it has been. You know, she's won every big award in award season and now obviously sealing it.
And a film like Emilia Perez really works for even the Academy, because the Academy earlier was backing, and that explains the nominations that the film has received. An international film, particularly in Spanish, to have made it, and that too the top wins and the top nominations really speaks for itself for the film. But unfortunate controversy that got associated with Kala, the leading person as far as this film is concerned, and that's what had given the film
she's
a
actually
shot
at the ceremony tonight.
Yeah,
and it's fascinating because there are cameras on her. This is on the lead actress who created, you know, around who there was this controversy. There are actually cameras following who she's meeting, who's getting up and interacting with her. So it's a tricky position she's in too. Let's just go back to Ricky to hear more. Ricky, we are filling our audiences on all the drama, all the beautiful moments that have just played out. As we were speaking to you just a few moments ago, we were watching as Zoe Saldana went on the stage and accepted that award. And part of the beauty of this moment is how people acknowledge the people in their lives. You know, we saw her acknowledge her husband, and that was tearful, that was beautiful. And for me, it's one of my favorite moments, just seeing an actor, a director go up there and talk about how much their partner has sacrificed for them to win that award. Ricky, any speeches for you that have stood out in the last few years?
I can tell you from my personal experience that many times, you know, like for example, I've had the opportunity to win the Grammy Award 3 times, and when I go on stage and I've got an acceptance speech, the knee-jerk reaction is always to thank everybody who has been part of that particular specific piece of work, you know, that particular album or that particular film that you've been a part of. But then slowly you start understanding that, you know, that it's not just that that one has to be grateful for. You have to be grateful for your entire career and everybody who's supported you through your career, especially your family, your teachers, your colleagues, people who have worked with you throughout your life, people who have supported you. So I guess that's what happens over here. It becomes a very emotional moment where you think about your entire career rather than, you know, just that one moment or just that one film that you worked on. So it's the same with Zoe. Zoe has paid her dues. She's acted in blockbuster movies. She's acted in independent movies.
Avatar, I just want to tell our audiences that's where you've seen her. She was in Avatar. You know, I know it's so long ago, but people forget that she was covered in blue.
So is particularly emotional about Avatar. I know that for a fact.
We forget.
No, she actually wasn't covered in blue. She wasn't. She was basically in motion capture. So she wasn't technically in the movie, but her spirit was in the movie, the entire movie. So she's really played it, but she was covered in green as Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
So she's really paid her dues, and so she absolutely deserves this Oscar because she's been good to work with. Everybody has only had good things to say about her professionalism, and she's been good in everything that she's ever done till date.
Right, and Toya, we have Edward Sonnenblick who's back with us on the broadcast. Ricky, do stay with us. Edward, you know, we have been talking to you right from the very start when the Oscars ceremony began. You must have really gone and seen what all is happening. So far, what are your key takeaways? What do you take back from the ceremony?
Yeah, sorry, I had another engagement and then sort of naste ke saath I've been watching, so
Chai pee rahe ya coffee? Edward?
Yeah, chai, of course.
अभी तक हिंदी नहीं बोला है ज़्यादा. Just give us a little more.
You know, Edward, we really want to compare your accent with Conan. So you have to actually say what Conan has said at the Oscars stage in Hindi.
Okay, अभी तक actually मैंने नहीं सुना, बस थोड़ा पढ़ा. गूगल अंकल ने बताया मुझे कि कुछ नाश्ते के साथ ऑस्कर ऐसा बोला ना?
Yes, बिल्कुल. जी.
Okay.
You're good.
The test he didn't know he was coming into today morning.
अरे यार 17 साल हो गया मुझे मुंबई में, तो इतना हिंदी बोलना
पड़ता है
ना.
हाँ, हाँ.
You know, Edward, the fact that you say that, we've had an Indian actor, the fact that I'm calling him an Indian actor because of his association and such a vast association with India and films in India, that is Tom Alter. The impeccable Hindi and Urdu that the lad used to speak has been really great. And people look back, at his diction and the way and how keenly he used to, approach the language.
Don't forget, I mean, Tom Alter was born in India. He lived his whole life in India. I think, I've seen interviews where, he would really bristle when people complimented his Hindi and his Urdu, because, he really felt like he was a son of Indian soil, and it was just part of who he was growing up in India, to speak the Hindi and the Urdu that he spoke. So he's of a different order altogether. I had to learn Hindi as an adult from scratch, and I'll never touch that kind of mastery of the language, of course.
Right.
Lovely to hear from you. I just want to tell you very quickly, both of you actually, we're going to have you stay for a second. We're actually covering the live coverage as we speak. We just saw Mick Jagger go on stage, which was fascinating. I was like, wait, why is Mick Jagger on stage? I think he's actually giving out an award, I think, for best song, but we'll
Why
just
do I feel I'm getting the short end of the stick here? I need an Oscar screen right here, because Toya's screen is right there. I can't look away. So
Right.
I'm really keen on knowing what is happening at the ceremony.
And he was
So
on
Toya.
stage.
Yeah,
And he was on stage. And it's just so exciting to see a legend like that return, to give out an award like that. Wait, let's go back to Ricky to understand a little bit more. Ricky, I know we're coming to you with questions that are wide-ranging. You're a composer, so I want to kind of return to your roots with this next question. You were talking to us a little bit about the trickiness that comes with trying to compose the score for a milestone film. So something like a Wicked, where you actually have well-known songs, your audience can actually sing along, because Wicked, and our audiences may or may not know this, it's based on a musical. It's also the precursor to The Wizard of Oz. So it's something that's been part of Americana for years and years. And so in no way was that a surprise. So you were talking a little bit about the balance there. But tell us a little bit more, Ricky, about composing the score, composing music when it isn't such an obvious film. So Wicked has song pieces, but something like an Anora, where music plays a much subtler role. What would you say there? Or Dune. Dune's soundtrack in particular was talked about. The sounds where, in Dune you have the creature that moves through the sand, the sound that it makes, that became iconic. Talk to us a little bit about what goes into that.
So in these cases, one has to just support the movie. That's the most important thing. One has to look at what the vision of the director is and support that vision.
Emilia Perez is just one best song. We just want to tell our audience.
Wow.
We just want to tell our audiences that a song from there. But yeah, do go ahead.
And
Amazing.
Ricky, you do share your thoughts about that, because that's another win for Emilia Perez.
Yeah, just one more in the long list.
Yeah.
So now it looks like it's neck to neck with Anora and Emilia Perez. So because now all eyes on the major award, that is the Best Picture award. Let's see what's going to happen over there. But both have got equal chances, in my opinion. But coming back to the score, one has to just support the director's vision and support the director's story. So sometimes the visuals itself and the dialogues itself convey a lot of the emotions and a lot of the story. So the music is just used as a supporting element to support all of that. Or sometimes the music is used as an overpowering element to bring in the magnitude, to bring in the scale, and to bring in the beauty of the movie. Like, for example, what happened with Dune. Even though Dune does not have too many hummable pieces like what you would have in a Jurassic Park or a Indiana Jones or a Pirates of the Caribbean, it was more about music used as a sound design element to elevate the film and to overwhelm the audiences with emotion. So music can be used in different styles and different ways, and it's always open to interpretation as to how to use it.
And Edward, about this latest win for Emilia Perez. First of all, I would obviously want you to weigh in on this, the kind of awards that the film is going on winning despite the controversy. And I know we end up talking about the controversy when talking about the 13 nominations for Emilia Perez, and they have ended up winning some of the big ones so far. Your views?
Well, yeah, you know what they say. There's no bad publicity. In fact, maybe bad publicity can be the best kind in some cases. I think the judging is just going on the merits of the film, and not looking at anything else perhaps. But Emilia Perez is definitely looking like the strongest film right now.
It really is, and it's exciting. The big question obviously is, will Emilia Perez notch in that, it had 13 nominations, will it notch in those numbers? And one thing it seems like everyone has agreed on, the reporters who've joined us, the experts earlier, is that it's possibly lost out on best film because of this controversy.
Yes.
So that's still going to be interesting.
But yeah.
So you have Brutalist, I think, that is leading the charge. You have Anora too.
We will also talk about Conclave, because so far
we've strayed away from talking about Conclave.
Nobody's talking about Conclave, surprisingly.
Although it is a tightly made, excellent drama, we'll talk a little bit more about it and just what it's made on, because it's about the process of choosing a pope. It's a very, very interesting film. But we'll see you in just a few moments. The Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars continues right here with Griha and I. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
Lining Islamophobia, amongst other other things which are very, very problematic.
Yeah.
Do you think a film should bear the brunt of one person's folly, to repeat myself?
I do think a film needs to be responsible in its casting choices. You've got a huge studio like Netflix behind this film. I also think the PR crisis could have been handled very, very differently from the way. I think that's really that's where the studio could have shown itself, and I think that's where things went differently. And in comparison, you have a film like I'm just bringing it back to Anora again.
Yes, of course.
But a gritty, lovely film like Anora, complete unknown. Timothée, you've got so many good contenders, is my point, and it's a crowded field. It's a crowded game as usual. Let's just go back for a second to Edward to understand a little bit more. Edward, just tell our audiences a little bit more about what this means. I just want to talk a little bit about what this means for actors who win this award. And the reason I want to touch on that is because we've seen Timothée have a campaign like no other. He's already a charismatic person, but the media appearance he's been making, whether in SNL, where he was both the musical guest and the host, or just like little videos he's been putting out on the internet, it feels like he's been driving his own campaign for an award recognition with a complete unknown. And just a few days ago, we saw him give that beautiful, very, very moving speech as he won the award, where he just kind of went up there and said, look, I want to be one of the greatest. What did you think when you saw that speech? Because I know it did rub some people the wrong way. They were like, this guy, seems like a bit of an upstart. But for a lot of people, it was very endearing. How did you see it?
Actors have a job to be in the public eye. It's what we've signed up for. And especially when you're a superstar, especially when you're a young, up and coming I wouldn't call Timothée Chalamet up and coming, I guess. But he's young and he's hot. And you have a job to do when that is your persona, when that is what you're doing. And I think he's just filling that role. I think he's doing his job.
But he's doing it like no one else we've seen do it in the Best Actor list. You don't agree? You're not is it fair to say that? Because I haven't seen any of the other Best Actor nominees do that, really, in that manner in the last few months.
Yeah, I guess that is the cutting edge of
social
PR,
media promotion.
That's his generation, and I guess he's leading the way, and we're probably going to see a lot more of that kind of PR going.
It's my colleague Titasa who continues to get us all the updates from the Oscar stage. But Ricky and Edward, so far from what you see happening at the ceremony, along with the performances, the key takeaways that really made it for you. Ricky, I'd begin with you.
I mean that controversies actually do not dampen the spirits of Emilia Perez. That's what I would say would be the key takeaway, because you would think that cancel culture and past tweets would actually destroy the chances of a film, but it looks like the film is going as strong as ever, which is pretty amazing.
Edward, what about you?
I really want to see Anora. That's the big takeaway for me. I already won, screenplay and editing, and I think the director is on a crash course for best director and probably best film. That's my feeling, and it's really interesting to see films like this always making waves.
And Sean Baker, who is the director, is someone who has received this kind of acknowledgement before. He's had other films like this exactly, indie films that are beautifully made, that highlight stories around communities that aren't often spoken about. He's had films like this make it to the running, but this award and how important it'll be for him, especially because Anora is a small budget film. Its cast is also, it's a very small cast. It's essentially the story of a young sex worker. It's a beautiful story. It's a story of a young sex worker who gets caught up with a Russian oligarch, or rather a Russian oligarch's son. He promises her a hand in marriage, he marries her, but how that marriage means nothing. And in the course of just 2 hours, it'll leave you weeping. It's a sad film, but it's something that's been hailed also for its respectful portrayal of sex workers. That's been something that has been very, very refreshing to see. So let's just talk.
Also, the film also won the top award at the Cannes Film Festival. So that itself shows what a brilliant film it is and how appreciated it was.
Exactly. So again, for Indian audiences, I do want to tell Indian audiences, Anora hasn't actually come out in India. So it has been hard to get a hold of if you have been lucky.
Makes me wonder, where did you end up watching it?
I have watched it in certain places online. And we will not talk about it any further. But Ricky, if we could just ask you, walk us through what it takes to build a campaign. And I want to return, we haven't spoken enough about Anuja, and I do want to touch on Anuja for a second. Anuja is a small film, actually made by, I believe, an American director, but it has big Indian names backing it. It has Guneet Monga, it has Priyanka Chopra. These are people who have supported the film and brought it the kind of acknowledgement it's seen, and right now it's one of the nominees. Ricky, I don't want you to touch on the film as much as I'd like to ask you a little bit about a campaign. What does it take to drive a campaign in Hollywood? What does it typically involve? What have you observed in the process? Especially because I assume that there are typically 5 films all wooing the Academy at the same time. So, how do you get that edge?
I guess when it comes to films, when it comes to the Oscars, the campaign starts from the first round itself. Like, when you have the long list and your film has been accepted in contention for the Oscars. So even though there are voting members of the Oscars all over the world, a lot of them are in Los Angeles and a lot of them are concentrated in America, but mainly in Los Angeles. So it is very important that people in Los Angeles have heard of the film, and people in Los Angeles, that is the filmmaking community, knows the film and appreciates the film. So that is really, really important, and that is where the campaign focus needs to be. And that's the reason why whenever an Indian filmmaker has to campaign for an Oscar, they always have to, move to America for a certain period of time to campaign for the movie. Then there is no way to actually get a list of who the voting members are, even though one can speculate as to, these are the voting members and these probably are people who could be voting members within the Academy. So one has to widen your circle, figure out what are the publications that potential voting members and potential peer groups within the movie industry read, what are the television programs they probably watch, what are the routes that they take to work, and what billboards can one hire so that you can display your movie, or you can display for your consideration advertisements on those billboards or websites and things like that, and get as much attention of your peers, because the voting members for the Oscars are all peers. They are all filmmakers, or they're people who are working well within the film industry, maybe in technical roles or in artistic roles. But one has to reach out to as many of them as possible, get them to like your movie and get them to like your art and get them to like your technical abilities. And that is what will get you the votes, and that is what will get you the award.
So, Ricky, while you say that, do you think with Elephant Whisperers, a film that ended up winning the Oscars for Guneet and India, for that matter, Guneet has got that, trick right, and she is very much in the game, and she has been there, done that. So, do you think the chances for Anuja thereby are pretty good?
Definitely, Guneet obviously understands how the entire system works, but at the same time, Guneet is not alone with that. There are other people also who understand the system really well, and there are people who are actually living in Los Angeles, every day, rather than Guneet going over there for a month and campaigning for her film. So the people who are actually living in Los Angeles have got a huge advantage because they're meeting these peers on a regular basis. They are socializing with them on a regular basis, working with them. Guneet may be working with them on 1 or 2 films, but these are people who are working with.
I must stop us for a second and say we're forgetting that Mindy Kaling is also backing this project, and Mindy has deep roots in LA, in Hollywood. She's someone who goes back decades, so they do have that, luckily. Can I just very quickly take a second and tell our audiences a little bit about how voting works for this award? So the best film, and we're not talking about live action, which is what Anuja's in for. The best film, which is the biggest award for the night, is voted for differently from the rest of the awards. It's ranking preferential order, which means that unlike the other awards where members of the Academy are going in and placing their vote, here you actually go in and you say which film you think most deserves to win, second, third, fourth. So you're ranking it, and ultimately that arithmetic is done. It's done so that sometimes when there's a tiebreaker, that tiebreaker can be settled. It's a complicated system, and it's one that's led to surprising upsets, which is what makes this category such an interesting one to watch and to actually take a look at. Ricky, if we could just come back to you to ask you one more question here. A lot said about the diversity and inclusion element in the Academy over the last few years. That's something we've been touching on. In the last few years, the Oscars were called out, as the Grammys were too, for being an organization that just didn't have enough representation. And we saw the haul that the entire rehaul that the Grammys did. The Academy did the same thing. How have you seen it? Do you think these kind of changes make a difference, or do you think it takes a few years for that kind of change to actually filter into award choices?
For long-lasting change, this has to happen over a couple of years, and it has to be an evolutionary process itself. I believe that for the movie industry, it's very important that it starts with the stories itself of the projects that are being made, where the stories itself need to have diversity and inclusion within them and within the DNA of the stories itself, and that is what will encourage more and more diversity when it comes to casting choices. And also when it comes to executive positions, especially when it comes to the music industry, I've been a huge advocate of diversity and inclusion when it comes to executive positions, because only if there's diversity and inclusion within the executive positions in the music industry that you will see that in the art itself and within the artists itself. So I guess this is what's happening with the Grammys. There's been a huge overhaul, especially when it comes to the voting membership base, and also when it comes to the executive positions. There's a lot of diversity over there, and I see that happening slowly but steadily, even with the Oscars.
And you're just getting away from the diversity bit and talking about the people, the main award specifically, the best film. So far, we have not yet, and I was just talking to Toya about it, that we've not yet gotten to discussing about Conclave. What do you think are the chances for this particular film? We were talking about how the voting category is and the process is completely different when choosing the best film at the Academy Awards. Where do you think the chances of Conclave really lie, Ricky?
I'm a huge Ralph Fiennes fan, a huge Ralph Fiennes fan, and I would really like to see him win, even though I do not think his chances are really high.
Yeah.
But I would really like to see him win this award, because the guy's one of the best actors that we've ever seen in history, I would say.
He's Voldemort for many of us.
Absolutely
I do want to remind our audiences.
Yeah. I didn't get you?
That he's Voldemort for many. Indian audiences will recognize him as Voldemort.
Yeah. So he's most famous for that, but he's been good in every single film that he's ever done. I really wanted him to win for Constant Gardener the year that he was nominated, but unfortunately he did not. But he's absolutely brilliant. And if you look at films which are made about these conclaves and these and these popes, like for example Two Popes was mildly successful at the Oscars. So one can look at that as being a benchmark. But I would say Conclave. I would really like Conclave to win, but I don't think it is going to win.
What about Adrien Brody and Brutalist? The last time, of course, he went up the Oscar stage to win the Best Actor in 2003. It ended up in a huge controversy. Yes, it was a huge controversy. So, what do you think is going to happen this time around? How are his chances?
I think it'll be a great comeback if he wins. Because there were a couple of years in the last decade that he was actually written off completely.
Yeah.
I think he's a great actor. I think he did a fantastic job with The Pianist. Couple of other films also he's been absolutely fantastic. I think he was great in The Brutalist too. So I think there's a lot of competition. I'm also very confused as to who I want to win the Best Actor category. I think Adrien Brody is also fantastic, and I would be very happy if he wins too.
And there's a little, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
There's a little sound controversy associated with that film. And since we are talking to you, Ricky, the AI controversy with The Brutalist, do you think that is in any way going to weaken the chances for the film?
I don't think so, actually, because now people have started looking at AI as being a tool for bettering the art itself. So I think people are just going to ignore that controversy. I don't think people are going to take that to heart.
Okay, Ricky, stay with us. I do want to tell our audiences, so we've talked, let's walk very quickly through all the nominees for Best Film. You have Emilia Perez, which we've talked no end about. A Complete Unknown, which is the film on Bob Dylan that stars Timothée Chalamet. Conclave, which is what we just talked about. It's the film about how a new pope is selected. I'm Still Here. There's The Substance. I'm sorry, I confused the two films, but I'm Still Here is the one that we talked about earlier. The Substance. Dune Part 2, of course, that did very, very well in India if you look at the box office. You have Wicked, that we've again spoken a lot about. You have Honora, a beautiful small film that we at least seem to be placing our bets on. You have The Brutalist, and the other film we haven't talked about yet, Nickel Boys.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't talked about Nickel Boys at all, and we'll talk a little bit about it on the other side. It's the dark horse in this race. It's a complete dark horse, but a beautiful, very experimentally made film. We'll see you in just a few minutes on the other side.
Brought to you by GeoBP Fuel with active technology.
MDH का किचन किंग किचन में हो तो हम सब कुछ बना सकते हैं। बैंगन का भरता, आलू गोभी, भिंडी मसाला और भी बहुत कुछ।
Like the strongest film right now.
It really is, and it's exciting. The big question obviously is, will Emilia Perez notch in that, it had 13 nominations, will it notch in those numbers? And one thing it seems like everyone has agreed on, the reporters who've joined us, the experts earlier, is that it's possibly lost out on Best Film because of this controversy.
Yes.
So that's still going to be interesting.
But
So you have Brutalist, I think, that is leading the charge. You have Honora too.
We will also talk about Conclave, because so far
we've stayed away from talking about Conclave.
Nobody's talking about Conclave, surprisingly.
Although it is a tightly made, excellent drama, we'll talk a little bit more about it and just what it's made on, because it's about the process of choosing a pope. It's a very, very interesting film. But we'll see you in just a few moments. The Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars continues right here with Griha and I. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
We have just seen how Zoe Saldana has won the award for Best Supporting Actress, given that really, really emotional speech at the Oscar stage. Toya, did it remind you in any way to that speech of Halle Berry's when she won the Best Actor?
Oh, how beautiful.
For
and I love that comparison, because when she won the award, it was historic, obviously, for different reasons. I think with Halle, we were so excited for her to win, and then she went on. She, of course, looked like a total babe and, had that award in her hand, and it was a tearful speech. Zoe, actually, that comparison between the two of them has been made before. But this, I think, the fact that she chose to highlight a political note, it was very pointed. And to be honest, with our audiences, this is the most you're going to see politics brought in. Politics stays away from the Oscars largely, apart from larger conversations around diversity that we've seen.
If you don't have a Meryl Streep, that is winning the award.
But apart from diversity and inclusion that we've seen such a large conversation around, and we've seen the Oscars address it over the last few years in a big way. But this might be the most symbolic moment in that sense that we might see tonight. So,
but what you have to say, Toya, since we were on political speeches or anything remotely political that's being said on the Oscar stage, very recently we saw something unprecedented happen at the White House. Do you think any of that would find mention in any way at the Oscars?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I can see your smile right now. But the only reason I don't think so is I think that actors, cinematographers, filmmakers, they work their lives for this moment. So I think even when they do put out a message, they are very calculated and particular that even the message doesn't, overtake their own journey, their story. For someone like Zoe, as we've been talking about, Emilia Perez, and we'll just highlight this for our audiences, Emilia Perez is a film that had 13 nominations. It was, if you just look at the films that have had the most nominations, La La Land, for example, that was just one nomination more. So it went into award season highly awarded. Had this last minute, I shouldn't call it last minute, it's actually lasted months, but this had this huge full-blown controversy play out with the lead actress in the film. And you had Zoe Saldana caught between a rock and a hard place where she had to address those comments. Netflix, the production house, has addressed those comments. But at the same time, obviously, she wanted to see her own campaign be successful. And it has been. She's won every big award in award season and now obviously sealing it.
And a film like Emilia Perez really works for even the Academy, because the Academy earlier was backing, and that explains the nominations that the film has received, an international film, particularly in Spanish, to have made it, and that to the top wins and the
of the Oscars. We're watching them live right now, and you are with us on this journey as we wait for who's going to be winning the top awards of the night. We are just a few moments away. We've entered into the last hour round of the Oscars ceremony. Best Actor, Best Actress, the biggest award of the night, Best Film. Those are the ones we're most excited for right here, and we're bringing you wall-to-wall coverage.
Right.
All right. So what are we going to be doing next, Griha, as we enter into this?
So right now, I am being told that the best documentary has just been announced, No Other Land. What do you have to say about this particular film? Not finding any US distributors and yet making it to the Oscars?
And I believe a very, very heartfelt speech was also given on stage. We will, of course, be sharing all of those details with you in just a few seconds. The other very beautiful thing that just took place, remember the LA area had to deal with fires, and these were widespread, devastating fires over a period of weeks. The kind of loss, not just human, loss of property that was seen across Los Angeles has been huge. And just a few moments ago, the Oscars honored the LA firefighters. So they had all of the representatives from the LA firefighters come onto the stage. And what was really great is sometimes award ceremonies will call up, these people. They'll do these teary sort of grateful things. Here you had them standing on stage and each of them cracked a joke. So it was really, really lovely and just such a nice, sweet way of honoring them. Let's go over to Tatas though to understand
Absolutely.
more.
So Tatas, you tell me what all happened there, because we have seen in the past award ceremonies, especially this year, because LA has been raked with these wildfires. We've had all the firefighters either occupying the front rows at the award ceremonies, whether it is the Screen Actors Guild Award or the Golden Globes. And this time at the Oscars, it was a very different tribute, so to speak. What was it?
Of course, when you have Conan, the tribute is bound to be very different. So what he did is he invited the frontline officers on stage, and he said that there are some jokes which I don't really have the heart to read out or say out loud. So why don't you, look at the teleprompter and say. So the officer read this particular joke out that, our heart goes out to all those producers who have lost money, when it comes to joke per two. So I think the audiences had a good laugh. Please pardon me, my comic timing is very bad, so it didn't land the way it landed on stage. But yeah, so I think it's really nice, Oscars. It's not the first time though, every time there is an important issue that needs to be talked about, that needs to be addressed, that needs to be sort of, for every conversation that needs to begin, on an important issue, Oscars has always sort of, pushed that out, and it has happened again, which is great, I think. So, yeah.
Can I just share with our audiences also, Tatas, please stay with us. I just want to share with our audiences, The Only Girl in the Orchestra is just won for documentary short. And I want to tell our audiences a little bit about the film, because the film is an incredible film about a double bassist. You can see her on your screens right now. She was the first woman to ever become a full-time member of the New York Philharmonic. And so it's a beautiful film about this one woman's fight to take her music to another level, to perform it for the world. And it's just been heralded with the documentary short. We're continuing to bring you all the coverage live from the Oscars. Vishal, once again, we're coming back to you. And again, we can see, your trackers on. Vishal, you have been calculating the numbers for us. So you have been sharpening your prediction of who you think is going to win Best Film. Last we spoke to you, you told us about the editing award. We just want to tell our audiences that the Oscar for sound goes to Dune Part 2.
Wow.
And we were just talking a little while ago about how beautifully the soundtrack of Dune was crafted. It's a tricky soundtrack. Coming up with sounds for imaginary creatures can never be an easy task. But Vishal, just quickly tell us, how sharp is your calculation getting right now of who's going to win the Best Film? I believe last you told us Anora because of editing.
Well, as predicted, Wicked, of course, took home the Oscar for Best Production Design. It was predicted by everybody. So, as the best song that went to Emilia Perez for Elma, and Darren Warren's now finally got his 16th nomination, and we probably wait next year. Probably he'll bag an Oscar for Best Music. But like Dune of course won the award for the best special effects, and Emilia Perez of course now have back two Oscar, one for the best song and one for the best supporting actress, and I think that's a lot of people believe is the journey of Emilia Perez. Here on, it'll be the show between the Brutalist and Anora, and if there's a surprise plan, then it could be Fernanda Torres for the film I'm Still Here, who is going by the latest trend, could be the big surprise of the evening if I'm Still Here wins the best international feature, and she could be a big threat in the best actress category, because if there's a vote split between Mikey Madison and Demi Moore, then it's going to be the benefit. Fernanda Torres, she's a Brazilian actor, and Academy hasn't honored a Brazilian film for a long time, and this could be their chance of honoring a Brazilian movie, a Brazilian actor. That will of course open doors for Hollywood in Brazil, and she's of course a daughter of a famous Brazilian actress. So a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Vishal, we have just had a word that there is another award for Dune 2. So visual effect also is going to Dune 2. So that's another gong in its favor. We, on that note, also would like to once again bring in our guest. Ricky Keth continues to be with us. Also with us is Kunal Kohli, filmmaker, joining us early this morning. Kunal, two awards already to Dune 2, if I'm not mistaken. Were you placing your bets on this film?
Yes, I would, although I have to admit that I didn't see the gentleman speaking before me. I don't have his knowledge on, who is related to who and where and his knowledge of, the current scenario of the Oscars. I'm an avid film fan. I make movies. I love watching movies. And I think the Oscars are a really, really important and integral part of all of us. They're like the most inspirational awards. Yes, Dune 2 has been on my list to watch, but I haven't watched it as yet. But I've heard wonderful things about it, and this makes me even want to watch it even more. See, that's another wonderful thing about the Oscars. Some films that you might miss during the year, it just revives your, watch list and makes you want to go and watch those films again. And sometimes you want to reconnect with the film. So I think, it's such a wonderful morning for us and evening for them.
Kunal, there are a few smaller films that, and you were talking about how incredible the Oscars are for smaller films because they can, shine a spotlight on them. Moonlight from a few years ago, I remember, really entered our lexicon when it was highlighted in the Oscars. Any films this time from the lineup of best films that you have seen that you truly think are deserving of the award, particularly the smaller ones? We haven't talked about Nickel Boys. Nickel Boys is a film that's creation. It's the director's choices because it's told entirely in first person. They have really, really been heralded. A film that you've watched, that you've loved, that is in the best film list.
I have unfortunately not watched too many films. They're all on my list. One of them is Anora. I really want to see that because that's creating a lot of buzz. But this is so important because there are sometimes films that come in theaters They might not be the big Marvel and the DCs, and they won't have the studio backings, but they definitely leave a mark with an audience. But sometimes it takes time to leave a mark, you know, and then people discover the film over the year, and then it goes to OTT platforms and subscription platforms, and that's where they get, and it stays in your heart. But what's nice about the Oscars, like you very correctly said, with the smaller films, they give a chance for international distributors to again revisit the film and say, okay, let's try and put these in theaters where we haven't. Parts of Europe, because they always, I don't know why, in 2025 even Europe is sometimes late on their film releases. But they re-release films, the European markets, the Asian markets, and they start doing well. So it is not just an award which is a pat on the back. It even helps business.
Yeah, all we imagine is light. That's exactly what we saw, in that it won its awards, and then when it came back, it's a run. And just seeing, the director engage with people on Twitter to ask them where she should screen it, that was really just, it was the first time I'd seen a director do that. Literally say, which small town should I come show your film in, and I'll do it. Ricky, if we could just get you to come in for a second. We were having the coolest conversation with you a little while earlier on creation of sound design, and you talked about Dune 2, and a few moments later Dune has actually won for best sound. And we're just telling our audiences that Dune had a really, really creative soundtrack. Creating those sounds, what does a imaginary monster make? What sound does it make when it moves through a desert? It's a weird question. How do you get there,
I really want to understand, and to add to what Toya was saying, Ricky, I heard that about, let's say, an A.R. Rahman, that he used to go for his morning walks, for his jogs, and had a little sound device and used to record the sound of a cricket.
Wow.
For that matter. And used to incorporate all of those sounds, those natural sounds, into his music. Is that, all that it takes? This is so interesting.
So the thing is that there are two aspects to what you're talking about. One is sound design, and the other is the score. Now the thing is that with a composer and with an expert like Hans Zimmer, these two worlds are sort of blended in with each other, because when Hans Zimmer takes on a film, he sort of has an overall perspective of the overall soundtrack of a film, which includes sound design, includes the score, and sometimes even includes the dialogue. So he's one of those mastermind type guys who feels that his job does not end with just creating the music of the film. He wants to have an overall perspective of the sound of the film, because he wants the marriage between the sound design, that is the sounds of the creatures, as you mentioned, sounds of the spaceships and all of that stuff, married really, really well with the soundtrack, so that they're not counterpointing each other, but they're working harmoniously with each other beautifully. So that is what happened with this particular soundtrack, because the music was absolutely brilliant. The music was very atmospheric. The music gave a beautiful mood for the movie. It brought out the epicness. At the same time, it brought out even the emotions of the movie. And at the same time, the sound design, it transported us to a different world. Like you had those copters, the sound of that, it really transported you to a world which was not from Earth, And it's the same thing with the worms. When it came to the sounds of the worms, it wasn't a regular sound that you would hear on planet Earth. It was something that was a very manipulated sound, and a sound that was completely original in nature, which would transport you to a different world. So all of these elements, when put together, it brought out the director's vision absolutely beautifully, that this is Arrakis, this is not Earth, this is a completely different world, and the audience needs to be transported to that world in order to be invested into the story.
I love that. Can I just ask, Kunal, can you tell us, when you see Dune, do you feel like it is different from other franchise films?
And can I just interrupt you and get you a quick update? I think we have an upset, because Anuja seems to have lost out this time around as far as the live action short film is concerned. So that's another upset there that's coming in. The only India association that we had seen so far at the Oscars not making it.
And this is a film, as you were telling us earlier, we were talking about that Priyanka Chopra is back, Mindy Kaling has backed, Guneet Monga has backed. It's a beautiful film about two young girls. You can actually catch a trailer, you can even watch it online right now. It's a film about two girls and they're both trying to make it in Delhi. It's a young sister who's the main character. Her older sister is trying to help her. It actually starts with a heartbreaking scene in which, you know, she works in a factory. She's offered a scholarship and the person who runs the factory says, no, I still want to use her. I don't want to let her go. So it's a heartbreaking film about realities in India. And unfortunately, it hasn't made it.
Yeah.
It hasn't
Kunal,
made
your
the cut.
thoughts? What do you think did not work for Anuja?
My God, that's a very
Yeah,
loaded
it's a tricky,
question.
yeah.
It's like, you know, we've suffered this heartbreak so many times. I mean, it happened even, I mean, we go way back to Lagan. I think Bandit Queen was one film that we could have won. It was a slam dunk for us, but there were other factors that didn't let it even go for the Oscars. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, though I have a lot of respect for the Oscar ceremony and I have a lot of respect for the process. But ultimately, it's just, you know, people sitting there, the Academy, how many people you can reach, how you get them to watch your film, their perspective. You know, sometimes they just don't get what we are saying. Our world is so different. You know, sometimes we laugh and joke about what we call first world problems. Those are so, I mean, you know, those are genuinely their problems. We might laugh at them and say, oh, that's a first world problem. If you reverse that, they just don't understand our references, our struggles, because which sometimes our cinema suffers.
And yet, an Elephant Whisperers did end up winning the Oscars, Kunal. So don't you think there is a different sort of a perception of India now, what people want to see on the global stage? It's no longer probably the poor stories that are coming in from the country. Do you think that is where it lacks?
I hope it's not, because, I mean, the Elephant Whisperers again goes back to, you know, just, well, not Land of Snake Charmers, not that bad, but it's still, you know, not the, you know, it's still not the vision of India that, or the India that we all live in. You know, so it's, and please don't take that statement the wrong way. It's not, you know,
No,
it's
absolutely.
yeah.
No, but so I just believe that, you know, sometimes a piece of art connects with the voting members, sometimes it does not. It's as simple as that. Because now, like, if you look at the Grammys, the first 3 nominations that I got for the Grammys, I won all 3. And then the 4th one, I got nominated, that is this year, and I did not win. And I felt that that was my best work to date. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that it did not connect with the voting members. And that's the reason why, you know, I could not garner the votes to actually win in that particular year. So I guess it's all about connecting with the audiences through the culture, through the traditions, whatever it is. Sometimes they do not connect, sometimes they connect. And if you connect, then you win. That's all.
And even they see your work, you know, like Jeho is not Rahman's finest.
Yes, that's something we all said when Jeho made it to the Oscars. All of us Indians sitting here, we were like, "Arey, this is not, you know, our favorite A.R. track."
That does not represent.
Exactly, and sometimes the Academy voters.
Rahman, it will not come in his top 10. It won't come in his top 20. So yeah, but
Ricky,
That's
go
the
ahead.
beauty of
Go
it.
ahead.
Sometimes that's the beauty of it, because sometimes what happens is that voting members, what I have seen is that they look at body of work at times. They see whether the person itself deserves, you know, an Oscar or a Grammy, and they vote according to that. Many times that happens, you know, because I've seen that happening where they do not look at the individual work itself. Sometimes they see that, you know, this person, it's now their time to win. Like what happened with Leonardo DiCaprio with Revenant.
Yeah.
And even if you look at the year when, do you remember the year when Quiz Show, Shawshank Redemption, Pulp Fiction, and Forrest Gump were nominated the same year?
All brilliant
Forrest
films.
Gump won because,
Yes.
and all became iconic films, all became cult classic movies. But
Watershed
Forrest Gump won
events,
that year
yes.
because everybody felt that it was Robert Zemeckis' time.
I just want to tell our audiences, so Kunal, Ricky, we'll ask both of you to stay with us for a second. The In Memoriam segment has just played out, and it started actually with a tribute to Gene Hackman, who, remember, passed away in a horrific manner. We don't have all the details. Him, his partner, his pet were all found dead a few days after. So a tribute was just paid to him. The In Memoriam segment is on right now. Stay with our coverage live of the Oscars here on The Breakfast Club, and we're just going to share with you something. A tribute played just a few moments ago paid to the LA firefighters. Remember, LA suffered horrific wildfires, and this was a gorgeous tribute that just took place on the stage. Take a look.
Talking about the LA wildfires, in fact, Toya, we had the host, Conan O'Brien, call in all the
They
firefighters.
were very beautiful, yeah.
It's very interesting that his house in Palisades just somehow got saved of the fire. So many people in LA, in the film industry, in Hollywood, have really suffered a lot because on part of the wildfires. In fact, there was a lot of talk on whether or not the Academy Awards should go on as planned. They did not eventually change the date from March 2nd, but there was a great demand that the show be pushed. That is how huge and impactful these wildfires have been for the people associated.
For the creatives, we were just showing out those visuals. Ricky, if we could actually have you speak on this, because you were talking a little bit about the importance of the LA community to Hollywood and to the Grammys and to both the music and the Hollywood industry, just how important LA is. Help us understand that sitting here in Delhi.
So I was very happy that both the Grammys and the Oscars did not get postponed. I was there at the Grammys this year. And of course, they also put out a beautiful tribute to the firefighters and to the resilience of the Los Angeles community. The Grammys is held downtown in Los Angeles. The downtown was not affected by the fires. Right. And the Oscars is held at the Dolby Theater, which is in Hollywood. Even that area was not as badly affected as the other areas of Los Angeles. But at the same time, I think it's very important that these two shows carried on simply because of the jobs that these shows create and how much it impacts the economy in a positive manner. And this is a time when people need the jobs most and when hotels need revenue most. Also, I remember the head of the Grammys Academy, that is the Recording Academy, had said that hotel occupancy at that particular point of time during the Grammys and even during the Oscars was just at about 30%. So which means that the hotels needed the business. You know, they needed the business. They needed people to come in from different parts of the world and fill up the hotels and reinvigorate the economy of Los Angeles. So I love it. And I love the joke that the gentleman made, the firefighter. He said that, my heart goes out to everybody who has lost their homes in Los Angeles, especially the producers of the Joker 2 movie. So that was really funny. But nevertheless, it's good to have a light-hearted moment with them, and it's good to acknowledge the beautiful contributions that the firefighters have brought into controlling the fires in LA, which have devastated so much of the industry.
Right. In talking about presenters, since they were the interesting presenters, one of the presenters at the Oscars this time around for obvious reasons, what about the others? We just saw a very stunning-looking Gal Gadot in her red gown present 2 awards that went to Dune. What about the rest of the presenters? Who are you looking forward to? Kunal, if you would want to, come in here.
I don't have a list of the presenters with me, so I'm not sure who all are coming up. But can I just say something here without being mean or even being a little mean? We're in 2025. I've yet to see an award ceremony in our country come even close to what the Oscars are. We can't even have a live show, forget anything else. Let's not even open up the debate of credibility or even people giving up a wonderful speech about something socially relevant or acknowledging firefighters or acknowledging social service people and workers. We're just pampering egos. It's so sad. I mean, I wish we use events like this to make a difference to music, to cinema, to the people, to people in society, to small filmmakers. The Oscars is so much more than all of than just the films and the gowns and the who wore what. It's so much more than that, and it's yet all that. There's a whole business about who's wearing what and the red carpet, and there's a whole business angle to that, and it's so wonderful, and the whole fashion industry is on that. But at the same time, the importance of everything else is kept in mind. I've actually been for one show where today we're having a discussion on sound. We're talking about how important sound is in our award ceremonies. It's actually said, and people, I've heard actors, celebrities, a lot of people say, "Arey yaar, mere ko sound on ka mat do. Give me some important awards to give. Let me give at least story to dene do yaar. Yaar, music dene do."
So you are saying, I know where you're coming from, it's a very emotional place that you're coming from, but do you think it needs to be as democratic? Because we have seen how, let's say, a best actor last year, Cillian Murphy will come up on stage and present the best actor award this year, like we have on a Miss World or a Miss International stage for that matter, whether it is passing on the crown. Do you think it needs to be as democratic here in India as well?
Yeah, starting from where we are sitting. Everyone wants to sit on the first row. That doesn't happen.
I could not agree with Kunal more, actually, because the thing is that I would say the primary difference between the Oscars and the Grammys, that is the American awards and the Indian awards, is that when it comes to the Indian awards, the celebrities are more important than the award itself. Because the award ceremonies need the celebrities to make the award ceremony work and to make the award ceremony more saleable. And that's the reason why these award ceremonies are not even live. Whereas in the West, what happens is that the award ceremony is more important than the celebrity. They do not care whether the celebrity attends the award or not. Like, for example, when Anthony Hopkins won 3 years ago, he did not even attend the ceremony, but he was still given the Oscar. So there what happens is that the Oscars do not care whether the nominees attend or not. And they say that the first time you're going to get to know that you won the award or not is actually when you sit down and the celebrity opens the envelope. The second thing is that the Oscars and the Grammys, they've got a completely independent organization which tabulates the votes so that they insulate themselves from any accusations of wrongdoings. Like the Oscars is tabulated by PwC, the Grammys is tabulated by Deloitte. So basically, it is a foolproof mechanism of tabulation which cannot be tampered with, and there is no way to game the system. So and the reason why it is this very reason that it's completely sacrosanct, the awards process, is the reason that it's lasted for so long. That the Oscars has gone into so many decades and the Grammys has gone into so many decades because the awards ceremony is far more important than the celebrity.
I just want to, both of you have brought up such important memories for us. And when I say that, I just mean we were just talking about important Oscar moments. And if you just go all the way back and you look at Marlon Brando, when he won his Oscar, sending a Native American young girl to collect his award instead of him actually going there as an important moment to give a political symbol. So the Oscars have been doing this for decades now, and it's beautiful to watch. We're going to head into a quick break, and I know that you're enjoying as much as we are this in-depth breakdown where we're looking at India, we're looking at the West too. We'll just leave you very quickly though. Morgan Freeman dedicating a tribute to Gene Hackman. We told you right now that the In Memoriam segment was taking place, and he's just said, and you can see him on your screens right now, that's Morgan Freeman right in the center. He said, "I lost a dear friend." He said this in his tribute to Gene Hackman, who, remember, passed away with his wife and his pet just a few days ago. We're heading into a break, but all coverage of the Oscars continues.
Hello, the excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access. Multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan bleachers along the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air, and it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits are absolutely high, and we are all set for the biggest night in Hollywood.
So Tita's taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main awards ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. I think Anora and the Brutalist sort of, I think they are leading across categories. Anora is, of course, is like a breath of fresh air, amid all the films that, we have. It could be called a rom-com of sorts. I'm looking forward to, what's in store for Anora and the Brutalist. And I think Conan has really set the ball rolling. I think, he's made us all laugh. I think the jibes that he took at, Sophia or Adam Sandler, his banter with him, and of course the way Cynthia really started, the show with that fabulous, mesmerizing performance. And let's see what's in store. We saw so many, Hollywood A-listers already in the audience. There was Timothée Chalamet sitting with his girlfriend Kylie Jenner. I'm sure something really fun is in store for all of us. I cannot wait to see. The first category, by the way, has already been announced.
Right.
It's gone to Culkin, for a real pain, and his speech was really heartwarming. He dedicated the award to his wife. So let's see what's in store.
Him and his wife have been everywhere in social media in the last few days. If you're someone who watched The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, you'd remember who his wife is, Brenda Song. But I just want to very quickly tell our audiences that we've walked over the fashion. We haven't talked about the fashion we've seen over the last few hours. And Titas, Vishal, we'll just take a second to talk about that fashion. So you talked about Timothée Chalamet right now, showing up in a beautiful baby yellow suit, custom made for him, and just really, I think the men's fashion is always so exciting. It's something that's become more exciting in the last few years. There was also, as you said, Cynthia, who just gave the opening number. She turned up in a deep green Louis Vuitton gown. That was really exciting. But usually, Titas, tell us there's stories woven into the fashion. When celebrities choose the designer they wear for a big night, there's a story that comes behind it. They've typically worked with that designer over weeks, over months to choose that look. We just also saw Demi Moore wearing Armani Privé. She was my favorite look. She was probably everyone's favorite look. Looking gorgeous.
What about Zoe Saldana?
In
I just
silver.
saw that. She's looking stunning as well.
So just tell us some of your favorite looks. Tell us if we already know. I know typically designers tell you the story, in the next few hours, they'll put up a post saying how they planned the story. But any looks for you that have stood out to us?
I think I completely agree with you. I think Demi, she really takes the cake. She looks stunning, and Timothy, of course.
All right, welcome back. You're watching the Oscar coverage with us live here on CNN News 18. This is the Breakfast Club, and we are walking you hand in hand through the last hour. In fact, actually just the last half hour of the Oscars. So we've watched, of the big awards, we've watched Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress go out. But so far, Best Actor, Best Actor, Best Actress and Best Film.
Best film and
all remain.
So I think the cinematography is already gone to The Brutalist. So there's one big award that The Brutalist has, in fact. And I do see the lovely Penelope Cruz, who is presenting another award. Yeah. So we will actually wait for that. We have our colleague Titas with us, who will in fact fill us in. Titas, what's happening? All right, we looked
to make that connection, but it would have been beautiful. We looked to make that connection just to bring you up to date. All right, let's go. I believe Titas is back. Titas, just bring us up to date, because we've been so lost here in conversation that apart from the occasional update, we've not been keeping track. But Brutalist finally, notching a few wins from the other film nominees. Just tell our audiences a little bit about what we've seen in the last few minutes.
Okay, so yes, the big categories are still pending, but Brutalist has won the best cinematography. Unfortunately, Anuja has lost. A lot. We Indians had a lot of hopes pinned on the film because Guneet, Mindy, Priyanka, they were backing the film, so that was a little bit of a bummer. But then let's see what happens next.
Absolutely. Titas, do stay on with us. We also have, a word coming in that the best film from Brazil, in fact, has ended up winning in the foreign language category. Is that right, Titas? Can you actually update us there?
All right, we'll check back in with Titas. Titas, we're going to keep bothering you through the broadcast with more and more questions. So we'll come back into you in a second. We'll go over to Ricky Cage also,
Yes.
who remains with us. Ricky Cage is a multiple-time Grammy winner. He has been giving us all of his perspectives on everything it takes from making the score to a film to, as we were discussing a few moments ago, award shows as they stand today, and just the artistry of award shows, what it takes to make a beautiful award show. One of the best parts, obviously, is all of the tears, Ricky. We've really been watching as actor after actor goes on. It's a defining moment in all of their lives. Ricky, tell our audiences one thing here. Is there someone that you're looking forward to will win in either Best Actor, Best Actress, or the film categories?
And also
The
remind
three-
me,
the
have
three
we
big ones.
asked Ricky
We
who
haven't
are
asked him,
his
that's why.
favorites? Yeah,
That's
I
why.
would just put him in the spot there and ask him, who do you think is taking the best film and best actor, actress? Ricky?
So for me, I can tell you about my favorites, but they'd probably not win. But when it comes to best film, my favorite was Conclave. So I'm hoping that wins. And same thing with the best actor. Ralph Fiennes is my choice. But who I think is going to win is, I think best film is going to be won by Anora, in my opinion. And the best actor, I'm not sure. I think this year Timothée Chalamet has got a very good chance of winning, even though he's not on the top of everybody's list, simply because I think
Adrien
he's
Brody knocked
sort
it
of
home,
like,
perhaps.
Huh?
Because perhaps Adrien Brody knocked it home. It's such a traditional Oscar film, The Brutalist, in some ways.
Well, I think Ricky K's hopes are pinned on Rolf. I think he is, taken there with his performance at Conclave. Is that right, really, Ricky?
Yeah, I think Ralph Fiennes was just brilliant in Conclave, and I thought the film itself was absolutely brilliant. But who knows, like for example, when it came to the competition between Parasite and The Joker, I remember that year, and both films were similar films in terms of the thematic elements of the divide between the rich and the poor. I personally felt that The Joker did got that thematic element a little bit better than Parasite. But then what I've realized is that the Oscar, the Film Academy, they're sort of allergic to big blockbuster movies. We've seen in the past because if you look at I think very few big blockbuster movies have actually won Oscars for Best Picture, like Lord of the Rings and the Titanic have won in the past.
Yes.
But usually, like for example, if there is a competition between The Hurt Locker and Avatar, Hurt Locker ends up winning. Crash won, which was a film which was done on a budget of about $3 or $4 million. So the Oscar Academy, they usually go for films which are lower in budget, and I guess because the voters are more prouder to vote for films which are the underdogs, as they say.
So while we are having this conversation on conjecture, borderlining on who's going to really win, Kunal, I would want your perspective on this, because there's a lot that's been said in the past and has been said every passing year on how the Globes are a precursor to the Oscars, the BAFTAs are a precursor to the Oscars. How true do you think is this conjecture really?
Well, I think I agree with what he just said. I think, an award is as good as its jury, or the jury members, or the academy here in this case. And I think it's going through a phase now where they're looking at pushing the smaller film. Even tonight, Flo has won, right?
Yes.
Flo was, that was a big one.
Yes.
I mean, for Flo to win against Inside Out and, Moana, the big studio films. So I think there's a point that, so I hope this continues, but it should be on merit. If there is a really big film that deserves it, fine, go ahead. A big studio-backed film. But it's good that things like this happen. And now, I'm not sure now where we are headed, but the evening looks interesting. Anora won for screenplay also, right?
Yes.
That was another good one. I think that's
And was it
nice.
also editing?
It was also editing. Sean
Editing.
Baker has.
So,
Yeah.
Kunal, you were talking about how our colleague Vishal has got all the dope on who wins what, and he's got the maths really in place. So we also would like to bring him in here. Vishal, you were earlier talking about how a film that ends up winning the best edit ends up winning the best film, and you were taking the Oppenheimer example. So in that regard, do we see the big gong going to Anora?
Okay, we'll get his volume back in a second. Vishal,
you're on mute, I
we'll fix
guess.
your volume.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm
go.
saying, I just want to say that yes, there are connections, and historically speaking, the winner of the best editing generally goes to, or been winning the best picture honor. But I just want to mention, like I mentioned a few minutes ago about the Fernando Torres, the surprise winner, and her film I Am Still Here won the best international feature, which also simply might be a small indication she could be the big surprise in the best actress category. Now it's going to be the three. It's a tight race in the best actress category where there is Demi Moore, there's Michael Madison, and it could be the big surprise Fernando Torres for the film I'm Still Here. And you don't know because when the campaign started, it was Demi Moore that was the big choice or big favorite of the front runner in the best actress category. Then it became Mikey Madison. And now, in the last leg of the voting, everybody was talking about Fernando Torres' performance in I'm Still Here, and that film winning the best international feature category could really, I think, it's a small indication that okay, this could be a big surprise of Brazilian actors might end up winning the best actress Oscar.
Vishal, seriously, are you changing your maths there? Are you now pinning your hopes on Fernando Torres?
See, I still hope Anora is likely to win the Best Picture because remember you were talking about historically with other guests about how Academy has been voting for other movies. But I just want to bring one thing. You know, the Oscar of before 2020 was a different than what is it today. You know, in the year 2015 and 2016. Oscar had members of 5,900, and that time that campaign of Oscar so wide that criticized heavily of Academy being very wide and less representation, and it started adding members every year. Today, Academy membership is close to 10,000 or 10,000 members with over 9,500 voting members, and if you can see that diversity push is reflected in the Best Picture category, where a Brazilian film is there, so is a Spanish language film is there, and we saw that its result when Parasite won in 2020. So if Anora wins, or say a Conclave win, it's a big, it's a result of this diversity push. And if this continues, then maybe perhaps in the coming 2 years we probably see an Indian film that made big in Hollywood, say like the Lunchbox did, could become part of the Best Picture, because now Academy wants to be this global body honoring the cinema and going by this trend. If this year they add more members, then probably in the next coming years we probably it's very difficult for everybody to predict the winner. Like for a long time, BAFTA winners or Golden Globe winners were the big indicator of who's going to win the Oscars. But now things have changed. Also, I just want to tell a big piece of history here. Oscar when started, they was called as the Award of Merit, and there's a trivia I want to send about the name. You know, it was called Award of Merit, and how the name Oscar became the Academy Award became Oscar is one of the librarian from the Oscar Academy said, "Oh, the statuette resembles my uncle Oscar," and everybody started calling it Oscar.
Oh, that's
Oscar.
an interesting trivia.
It actually is Uncle Oscar, yeah.
I think it got the name Oscar.
Vishal, we'll come back to you in a second. Thank you. That's a lovely piece of information, and it's actually our first piece of information that our audiences can take home with them, use with your,
if not the Oscars.
Yeah, if you're having your coffee or your tea. We're just going to share with our audiences more, but Best Original Score as we speak right now is received. The Oscars being given out for that. Let's just go back to Kunal, and we have Ricky Cage with us. We're just learning. Let me just pause for a second and tell our audiences the Brutalist winning for Best Original Score on stage right now. One more notch for the Brutalist. The Brutalist, like Emilia Perez, two hot contenders with a lot of nominations. The Brutalist taking that home. And as we announce this, we're also telling you that we are arriving at, this included the awards of the night that are considered the big awards. So we're looking at Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Film in just a little while from now. Let's go back to Ricky and Kunal just to speak a little bit more on this. Kunal, can we ask you a rather tricky question? Right now we were speaking to Vishal just a few moments ago, and he was talking about how in the last few years the Academy, by expanding itself, is attempting to make itself stand more for world films. And I just want to ask you how you see that. We've seen a similar push take place with the Grammys, in the sense that you have artists from abroad awarded, you have foreign film categories have historically always been a thing. But do you think Hollywood and the Academy Awards could ever truly be a global body? Do you think they already are? How do you look at it?
Well, I think they already are. And I think that was exemplified when Roberto Benigni won the Oscar against Spielberg. If you remember that night, I mean, that was it was phenomenal. I mean, he swept the awards for an Italian film, and Spielberg was nominated for, if I'm not wrong, for Schindler's List. You just have to check.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. Okay. So Roberto Benigni winning that was such a wonderful night, and that was world cinema, being embraced by Hollywood. And it was, as we started our conversation about, a non-studio film, an outsider, not a Hollywood biggie, everything. He had nothing going for him. Nobody had heard of him, and by the end of the night, he was a celebrated star all over the world, and his film was watched then after that all over the world. That those were the days of non-streaming, so it made its way to theaters all over the world. And I think it's always been inclusive, and that's a good example of it. Is it happening a lot more now? Yes, of course, it's happening a lot more now. The world has become a much smaller place thanks to social media, and we're all much more connected today. It's easier to be connected. But yeah, I would think it's always been that case, and it's been wonderful that it has been that way. And I mean, if we were more connected, I think, I know, I wish you'd even ask one question like, which films of the past, had a chance from India to win? I think a lot of Satyajit Ray films would have won.
Oh wow, yeah. But Satyajit, if I may say, Satyajit Ray is a name we talk about a lot. Tell us someone more recent in the last 10, 20 years that you think,
Well, I'd like to go a little more back. I think Guide would have won an Oscar for sure. I don't know why. I mean, I think that's Dev Anand's Guide would have definitely won. I mean, if we go just very recent, I think 12th Fail had a very strong chance.
Wow, interesting that you put that in, because everybody has been talking about 12th Fail all through that year. But thank you so much for that. I would request both Ricky and Kunal to continue to stay with us as we are talking about Oscars and also India at the Oscars, so to speak. And it's interesting, Toya, that Kunal was talking about Guide, or for that matter, the Satyajit Ray cinema, speaks volumes about how evolved has Indian cinema become
for decades.
That it is finding a mention, not just a mention, a proper dedication from the host of the Oscar Award ceremony this time around, Conan O'Brien, addressing the Indian audiences, and that too in Hindi. That is how important the Indian market really is globally. And so we will talk about all that.
And speaking about, because you were speaking about hosts, I do want to tell audiences, earlier we were talking about the tribute to Gene Hackman.
Yes.
And we told you a little bit about what was said on stage. Morgan Freeman essentially dedicating a tribute, saying, "I lost a dear friend." Take a look.
Hello, the excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access, multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan bleachers along the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air. And it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits are absolutely high, and we are all set for the biggest night in Hollywood.
So Tita's taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main awards ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, I think Anora and the Brutalist sort of, I think they are leading across categories. Anora is, of course, is like a breath of fresh air, amid all the films that we have. It could be called a rom-com of sorts, and I'm looking forward to what's in store for Anora and the Brutalist, and I think Conan has really set the ball rolling. I think, he's made us all.
All right, and welcome back to the Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars. We are walking you through everything that's taking place. Remember, the biggest awards we are still looking forward to: Best Film, Best Actor, Best Actress. All of that yet to be announced. Right now, some gorgeous musical performances taking place on stage. And a few moments ago, the funniest comment we just saw, Conan O'Brien hosting the show, remember, saying that because it was already halfway around the ceremony, making a reference to the Super Bowl, he said it's time for Kendrick Lamar to come out and call Drake a pedophile. He very quickly then said, look, I'm lawyered up, so don't try to make any kind of comment.
Trust Conan O'Brien to go ahead and
he's really poked in this entire ceremony right from the opening with the Emilia Perez dialogue that he chose to open with. He has gone after just really holding, I feel like, Hollywood and the entertainment world by its neck.
Yes.
Everyone's a little scared what's going to be said next. But
We're talking about awards. We will go back to our guests who continue to be with us. Kunal and Ricky are with us on the broadcast. So, Ricky, let me bring you in here. Considering Brutalist has ended up winning another award, this time original score. What do you have to say? Were you actually? I know we have been talking about Dune, but what about Brutalist making it?
Brutalist overall is a fantastic movie. I mean, a very technically superior movie, and it had to be because of the subject matter. So as I said, when it comes to the original score, all 5 nominees were equally good in my opinion. All 5 composers are absolutely brilliant. So Brutalist winning is no surprise to me. But I wanted to address something else that you were talking about the Oscars going global. I wanted to say that, in my opinion, the Oscars is as global as it can get right now. Simply because if you look at it, award ceremonies are a product of market variations itself when it comes to the film industry or when it comes to the music industry. So right now, the Oscars, their main income comes from, the television broadcast that happens, on, I think currently they're on ABC if I'm not mistaken. But the thing is that their main income comes from the television broadcast that happens in America. So, so the Oscars cannot have too many people winning awards who the American audiences does not know. So because if there are too many people who the American audiences are not exposed to in terms of films or in terms of content, then people are going to switch away from watching the broadcast. So that is why it's very important for them to have a lot of their voting members, even though they're all over the world, it's very important for them to have a lot of their voting members in America so that they're voting for films that have impacted American people. So that becomes really important for them. Now, the thing is that if they have to make their awards more and more international and get more Indian films, more Chinese films, more Japanese films, Korean films winning on an equal level, then in what language are they going to do the broadcast? Who are the performers going to be? How are they going to connect with those audiences all over the world? If one particular section of the world gets an award, then the other people are going to switch off. And, so all of this confusion is there. And of course, the world is coming together because of OTT platforms and because of streaming and all of that stuff. But it's going to take a very long time for the Oscars to truly evolve into a global platform where anybody, anywhere can actually win.
And yet we have 13 nominations for Emilia Perez, which is an international film, majorly in the Spanish language.
It's a French film in a Spanish language.
But a film that created huge impact in America and has got huge political value in America.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
That is very important to denote because it's a film that has a very, very strong political connection to India, and also it's got Zoe Saldana in it.
I think I asked the question because I was curious because the US has long held the placeholder when we say global. we often mean a US product. So the Grammys is a very good example of that, right? We say it's global music. And again, the tricky part here is that music from other countries, movies from other countries, we get that small option of best foreign film. You know, that's the category, whereas American films have such a broad base to compete within. But let's take the conversation back for a second to The Brutalist. Kunal, I'm coming to you with a question around The Brutalist. The Brutalist is one film that any time you hear what experts have had to say about it, they say that, and I'm not sure they're saying this as a compliment, they say that it was made to win an Oscar. Every shot of that film was shot as if ek din Oscar milega is film ko. Adrien Brody's delivered his dialogue as if ek din Oscar milega mujhe. Is that actually a thing? Tell us in a director's mind, you know, when you're sitting down with a script, this could be, you know, this is going to be a sexy Oscar film, because even the content of it lends itself very easily to that.
And while you answer that, Kunal, I must tell our audiences that the Best Actor category is right now being announced by Cillian Murphy. So anytime we would know who is winning the Best Actor. So if I interrupt you guys, please don't mind me.
Adrien Timothée, that's the toss-up. But do go ahead, Kunal.
Yeah, so I mean, we all start out from the time you put pen to paper or finger to keyboard and you start writing your script. You dream of some award, and anyone who says otherwise is lying. And every day on set, I challenge my DOP, I challenge my actors, I challenge my sound recordist, I challenge everybody on set that, guys, we got to give a trailer-worthy shot, at least trailer-worthy. Let's start with that.
Okay, gents, can I just interrupt you? I think it is Adrien Brody who has won the Best Actors award.
I think it's just the nominees.
It's the nomination.
Yeah,
okay, all right. It's my bad. I beg your pardon.
No, but don't worry, Kunal. You were telling. No, you can't do that yet. Sorry, Kunal. You're going to have to be here with us. I know.
I jumped the gun.
Both you and Ricky have it open, I think. I'm not sure, Ricky, if you do. But Kunal, you were telling us that when a director sees a script,
there's nothing, and okay. Now let me give you two very quick examples of two legendary
please.
filmmakers from India. There was the 50th award celebration of one very prestigious Indian award at one time, and Ramesh Sippy was being felicitated for Sholay. Okay, and when he picked up the award for Sholay, after like some 25 years of the film's release, and Ramesh Sippy, the man who's made Sholay and other wonderful films, holds an award in his hand and says, "Oh, so this is what it feels like." And I went up to him backstage and I said, "Sir, what did you mean by that? I mean, I'm sure you won so many awards." He said, "Sholay didn't win me a single Best Director award. The award went to Yash Chopra for Diwar." And Ramesh Sippy has never won a Best Director award in his life. So I think, that says so much. And the other very quick example I'll give you is when I saw Nasir Hussain receive his Lifetime Achievement Award. And he came on stage.
Okay, it is. So I preempted it. It is Adrien Brody who has won the Best Actor for this time around. The Brutalist, Adrien Brody, it is as Best Actor. We had announced it.
In my broadcast.
And you know what? I'm sorry, I've been such a Timothée Chalamet cheerer here, but he'd given such a passionate speech at the Screen Actors Guild when he'd won his award. And the camera, typically, when you win an Oscar, it shows you the actors' faces, everyone who didn't win that award. And you get to see Timothée sort of look down. But Adrien Brody, someone who's been in the public eye since The Pianist and before that. He's someone who's familiar with the Oscars. He's familiar with the red carpet. He's someone who, as we were saying earlier, The Brutalist was sort of the sure shot winner. Someone else winning it was the dark horse over here. So it has gone to the traditional choice. Also, very interestingly, they often say with Best Actor that Best Actor goes to an old, experienced actor, and Best Actress always goes to a younger actress.
But it's interesting that you say that, Toya, because he was one of the youngest actors to have won it the first time when he got it in 2003.
Now he's not. So now he's not.
For The Pianist.
Let's
hope it's not with controversy this time around like it had happened the last time. He is in fact giving his Oscar speech at the moment, so we're all looking forward to that, and we'll have our colleagues in fact break that down for us in just a bit. But Kunal, do go ahead please.
Yeah, you were talking about Nasiruddin Shah.
Nasir Hussain wins Lifetime Achievement Award, and he comes on stage, holds the award, and he says, "Achhi filmein bas ban jati." And I think, and so when I heard it, I had not yet made my first film, and I was like, "Huh? What did he say?" I said, "Oh, maybe he's aged, and maybe he didn't have the words to express himself." But I think there are no finer words than that. Achhi filmein bas ban jati. good cinema just happens. And good cinema, good music, it just flows. It comes from a place which we don't know, but it just happens. And that is such a reality that no composer, no creator can argue that. You know, you put your fingers on the keyboard and the notes just come to you.
How beautiful.
You get onto set and a film just happens. Magic just happens. Or you try your best and it doesn't happen. No one goes out to make a bad film. No one goes out to make a film that's not going to win an award. No one goes out to create a song that's not going to be memorable. But it just, you know, you make a Roja or you make a Jai Ho and still win an
Absolutely.
Oscar.
That's a beautiful thought there, Kunal. And thank you so much for sharing that. Ricky, we will come back to you in just a bit, and we really need to know what is Adrien Brody really saying that as he has that Best Actor trophy in his hand, presented to him by Cillian Murphy, last year's winner for Oppenheimer. So we will tell our viewers all about that, but after this very, very short break.
Brought to you by
Hello, the excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access. Multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan beaches along the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air. And it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits are absolutely high, and we are all set for the biggest night in Hollywood.
So Tata, taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main award ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. I think Anora and the Brutalist sort of, I think they are leading across categories. Anora is of course is like a breath of fresh air, you know, amid all the films that, you know, we have. It could be called a rom-com of sorts. I'm looking forward to, you know, what's in store for Anora and the Brutalist. And I think Conan has really set the ball rolling. I think, you know, he's made us all laugh. I think the jibes that he took at, you know, Sophia or Adam Sandler, his banter with him, and of course the way Cynthia really started.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars, and we've just watched a big award be given out, Best Actor for Adrien Brody, someone who has been in the spotlight for years, and upset for Timothée Chalamet, who won, remember, the Screen Actors Guild Award. One of the few, along with the BAFTA, one of the few films award ceremonies that is seen as a precursor to this one. Adrien Brody giving a beautiful, tearful speech on stage saying Papa's coming home with an award tonight. They give that thank you to their partners, and a beautiful moment. But we're waiting still for some big ones. Best Actress.
And his co-actors. He did thank his co-actors.
Yeah,
but were you expecting this, Soya, or has it been an upset for you? Were you
it's
rooting
not
for
an
someone?
upset. Timothée Chalamet's fans are across the world, not just represented here in the studio. There was a lookalike contest for Timothée Chalamet that went viral, that people may have heard about in New York, where you just had hundreds of young kids who look like Timothée Chalamet come out. So he's able to tap in, and it's interesting also, he has two films. Dune 2 is also him.
Yes.
There's also obviously his Bob Dylan film, and his Bob Dylan film is one he said he worked 5 years, 6 years for to perfect that Bob Dylan voice. He's actually very funnily, they've asked him, you know, if you came across Bob Dylan in real life, because he hasn't met Bob Dylan yet. But we shouldn't spend time talking about him. He isn't ultimately the winner, but he's also someone who has years to win it.
But there is an obvious comparison between Adrien Brody and Timothée Chalamet, because the conjecture was being drawn on whether or not he becomes one of the youngest ones to have won an Oscar now at 29. Because Adrien Brody was in fact one of the youngest actors when he'd won it the first time in 2003. Of course, that ended up in a controversy with that kiss with Halle Berry. Today, it's not that. It's a tearful speech that he is currently giving, even as we speak. As Soya was mentioning, thanking his partner and his co-actors on the film The Brutalist, and he was expecting this particular award. And there was so much that was being said, especially after the Globes and the BAFTAs, on whether or not he takes the big win tonight, and he has in fact.
Yeah, and it's ended all of our questions. But with this win, that question of whether or not The Brutalist will win Best Film, having nabbed this award, that gets interesting.
Yes.
And The Brutalist has been picking up awards. I think they won Best Original Score a little while earlier. We were tracking that. Or Best Sound. And you also, of course, have Emilia Perez that's biting at its heels. You have Honora, much loved. Honora got Best Acting. It got Best Screenplay. Let's go back to our many guests who are joining us for just this lovely conversation we've had over the last few minutes.
And we do have Quentin Tarantino right now. I think there's going to be a presentation of the Best Director right now.
Yes.
That is going to happen.
Sean Baker right now being heralded for Honora, Brady Corbet. So I'm sorry, gentlemen, we're going
to let's bring in the director actually.
Yeah. Let's bring in our directors.
Kunal, who do you think is going to take the cake?
Okay.
Say it before the award is announced.
Emilia Perez. The Best Director. Let's see if Emilia Perez gets it.
Okay, we have our fingers crossed.
All right, we're all sort of waiting as we see who is announced. And we'll just share with you in a second who it is that has won the award. We're actually watching as audiences around him. So I think it is Sean Baker for Honora.
Sean Baker.
Yeah, it is. It's Sean Baker for Honora. Wow.
Sean
That's
Baker for
huge.
Honora. Yes, it is.
All right, Sean Baker finally receiving. This is an award he's waited his life for. He's created films that highlight the stories of communities that aren't talked about again and again, right from Florida. This is a man who his work has been heralded, and Honora in particular, a small budget, a tightly written script. It's important to highlight. Not a lot of visual effects, not very much going on except for the captivating story of its two leads, and Sean Baker on the stage, possibly giving a very, very beautiful speech right now. But Kunal, now we come to you to ask you.
Expected?
Well, I'm glad because it just throws everything up, all the expectations and all, which is what is nice about the Oscars, because it's, and like you rightfully said, Sean Baker's been, always in the focus, but never got his due.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Yeah.
Yeah. This is his time. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, it's one of the most wonderful nights for a filmmaker. I've experienced that once in my life. When I got Best Director for Hum Tum, and I know that feeling stays with you forever. And because there was no there was nothing that I could have done to win that award, except make a good film. Nothing behind the scenes, no manipulation, but which has now become a thing of not of our award. Yeah, but so I think the feeling that one gets, genuinely, your throat dries up, you run out of words. It's almost unbelievable. You can't believe what's happening to you at that point in time, because all your contemporaries are there. People you respect, people you admire, people you've grown up watching, they're all there and they're sitting and clapping for you. There is no bigger high than that in a filmmaker's life, in an actor's life, in a composer's life, in anybody's life. That moment of glory is just so life-changing, and it remains with you forever.
Ricky, he's also got a standing ovation from his peers.
Yes.
What do you have to say about this moment?
Definitely, I think this is a moment like, if I have to compare it to another moment, it's like Sophie Coppola, winning for Lost in Translation, because both are sort of like mildly romantic comedy movies, very low budget movies, very high on story, very high on emotions, and two different communities coming together, Japan In this case, it's Russia. So the thing is that I feel that, and Sophie Coppola also exactly same story. She paid her dues. She worked with numerous filmmakers and all of that stuff, and and this was her reckoning moment, lost in translation. And in this case, Sean Baker's reckoning moment was is Honora. So I think it's sort of very similar in that respect. And also, I wanted to address a previous point that was made about making films for Oscars. A person who was an absolute champion at that was the disgraced and the criminal filmmaker Harvey Weinstein. He was very good at doing that. He would take on sometimes distressed productions which were halfway in and they've run out of money. He would buy those productions and he would make tweaks to the script, make tweaks to the shooting schedules and and the stories, and even sometimes pull out an actor and put in a different actor. And he would make those films completely Oscar worthy. And he was always successful. Every single film that he would touch would get multiple nominations or get multiple wins, from Shakespeare in Love to Crash to all the films that Quentin Tarantino made, because Quentin Tarantino, most of his films were actually produced by Harvey Weinstein. Most of Meryl Streep's movies were produced by Harvey Weinstein. So he was a champion at doing that, of how to make a film Oscar worthy and how to connect with the voting members.
Imagine how all of that has been buried under Me Too allegations. So all that body of work, what happens to people is just sad. But, now we are waiting for two big nods. That's Best Actress and Best Film. So who do you think is walking away with these two big ones?
Also, just sorry.
I'm really getting it wrong, so don't ask me.
No, but with the context that Honora has just won Best Director, so I mean...
Do you think it is going to be the Best Film also? Yeah.
Best Film and Best Actress for Mikey Madison, possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that. Taking off from here, I think I should not have worn my T-shirt. You're so well formally dressed and everything. You're Oscar-worthy dressed, and I'm just in a regular.
We were given guidelines.
I was not. My defense, I was just told to show up, which I did.
And you've shown up with stories, which is what we really appreciate.
Which is beautiful.
Ricky, Kunal, let's just take a second to tell our audiences a little bit more over here. We'll just come back to you in a second. So what we've watched take place so far, Best Director going to Sean Baker for Honora. Honora, as we've highlighted so much on this show, it's a small film with a small budget but a lot of heart. The story of a young sex worker who in her work comes across a Russian oligarch's son, marries him, and all of the problems that come out of it. So Sean Baker winning Best Director for that. He's someone who Florida Project really brought him into the spotlight. He, as we talked about earlier, this is huge for him.
Absolutely,
obviously.
and I'm really interested in knowing what exactly did he say in that acceptance speech of
his.
We'll go to Titas and know exactly that. Titas, tell us.
I think his speech was really beautiful. He spoke about how cinemas are under threat. They're dying. There are independent theaters across the US that are dying. He mentioned a figure, I think, about during the pandemic, 1,000 screens had shut down. And how cinemas are especially under bigger threat because of the streaming platforms. He urged parents to introduce their children, their 5-year-olds, their 6-year-olds, by taking them to the theaters, because that's what he has also, that's how he was introduced to the theaters. And he dedicated the award to his mother because, interestingly, it's her birthday today.
But also tell us, Titas, if you could, just a little bit more about Sean Baker. We keep saying, we told our audiences earlier, he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And Florida Project really brought him into focus. Why is he someone whose artistry is really looked up to, but, is being celebrated today finally?
Oh, I think, as a man, I feel, his lens, the lens through which he really tells his stories, they're really sensitive, they're tender, and we cannot say that about a lot of male directors. When we think of male directors, it's usually these larger than life, let's say, crime thrillers or actioners. But the kind of films that he is known for, they are like, it hits home. They're like more like slice of life films. And that's what really makes him stand out, among his contemporaries, his peers.
Absolutely. And while we are talking, Titas, I think the Best Actress Award is going to be announced because we have the nominees. That list is being played out at the Oscar Award ceremony. So we are waiting for that big announcement. So that's the second last award. So conjectures are being drawn on whether or not it is going to be Demi Moore or Mikey Madison for that matter, or it is going to be a completely different person.
Yeah, we've only been actually
talking about
between
these
those
two.
two.
Yeah. So we will just know very, very shortly. Fingers crossed for you, Toya. Who do you think? Who you're placing on
putting
best
me
on?
again and again in this tough position.
I know you're going to say Mikey Madison.
No, I love Mikey Madison and I loved that film. It was incredible. But for Demi Moore, I think her winning it is important in a way that Mikey has her career in front of her. And in just a few seconds, we're going to know. And the Emma Stone is up there right now. Mikey Madison has won the award.
It's Mikey Madison,
all right.
Best Actress.
That is huge. So Mikey Madison going up on stage. This is huge, but it's also unfortunately going to be a huge upset for, and we'll see her face in just a second, Demi Moore. Today was being looked at as a moment in which an actress who's built her career in Hollywood would finally receive her time in the spotlight with this award.
And she made a very, very emotional speech at the Golden
Globes.
This
will be considered a huge upset bigger than the Timothée Chalamet upset is nothing in comparison to this. Mikey, and you know,
what a huge moment for Mikey Madison, not taking away from
but
that,
I do want to also add, you know, we had Vishal Chatkara say this, that the Oscars often go to an experienced actor and a young actress. And Mikey Madison proving that once again. But she's done such a heartfelt, beautiful portrayal in Anora. She plays a gutsy, badass young sex worker who gets married to a Russian oligarch because he offers her money, seemingly kind of falls in love with him somewhere in the way there, and she wins you over with her charm.
Absolutely, and she's visibly overwhelmed. We do see her reading her speech out of a paper, and we would not go to and disturb Titas at the moment because I want her to, in fact,
to share all the details
the details and what exactly is she saying. But it is an emotional moment for Mikey Madison, a big win that the actor has got for her portrayal in Nora, something where she was pitted against the biggest names in the industry. So this one going in for Mikey Madison, a big surprise, but also a pleasant one.
And I also just want to share, she's someone with no social media. She doesn't have an Instagram. She doesn't have
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's only incredible because on one side we saw Timothée Chalamet's Oscar campaign over months and months where he was just, you know, just everywhere. And on the other side, you have someone like Mikey Madison who created a beautiful film, left an impact with her work. And you've just seen her at awards ceremonies. She hasn't put out anything on.
That's a beautiful anomaly for a young actor without a social media presence really and making it out there. That's a big statement to make, actually. And Toya, thank you so much for sharing that. I did not know that.
Fun piece of, I mean, I hope she hasn't created a social media, you know, in the last few days, because when I was last reading about her, because her acting is refreshing. Right now, as she's speaking on stage, Sean Baker is looking at her with a lot of love. So it's really, really a beautiful moment that we're seeing.
Let's actually, you know, ask Ricky and Kunal, who continue to be with us. Ricky, we were just talking about the fact that the best director is going to Sean Baker. We might see Mikey Madison win this gong for Best Actress, and this is what has happened.
Yeah, also one has to consider this to be the, I mean, we have to address the elephant in the room that most actresses who win the Best Actress Award at a younger age, their career actually goes downhill from there. That's sort of like the curse of winning the Best Actress.
In the good news.
Yeah,
the good news there
already.
Right from Halle Berry to Jennifer Lawrence to Gwyneth Paltrow, all of them, when they've won the Oscar at a younger age, their careers have usually gone downhill from there. And that has been always unfortunate when it comes to actresses. So I hope that for her, it's going to be different and she'll be an anomaly in this particular case.
But Kunal, why do you think that is? Why do you think that happens?
I don't know, maybe just something to do with expectations. And I hope she proves this wrong. I never put these two things together. But I think that's quite scary. But definitely I feel, there will be actresses who will prove this wrong. Going back to Sean Baker, I didn't agree with your journalist, sorry, I forgot her name. She's interviewed me just recently.
Titas, yes.
Yeah, very sweet girl, but little mean of her to say that men can't be sensitive filmmakers.
I know you're taking it.
Yeah, I was going to say it stayed with you very clearly.
And I think that the reverse sexism is also not fair when, you have to get a woman to make a woman-oriented subject and, a full female-oriented group.
Titas is with us right now. We're going to have the primetime debate that we didn't sign up for right now with Tidas on the left.
And here's a man who prides himself that in all his films, all his female characters are very strong and stronger than the male characters. You know, all my female characters have been stronger than the male characters, and they've been very sensitive as well. And I think I played a part in helping them portray that.
Kunal, sorry, before going over to Tidas, I will stand up for her for a second though and say that even if she didn't say, I think the statement is still fair for a lot of male directors, whether or not it is all.
We're just having fun saying this.
Yeah, no, of course.
I'm not taking it seriously.
Tidas, do you want to get a word in though? Because she's watching you, she's here with us right now.
Before we get to know which one is getting the best film nod, Tidas.
Yeah. Well, not all. You know, it was not a very. Wait, the award is being announced.
Okay, all right. A good way to switch tracks. But also, sorry, I do want to point out one thing before we move ahead. Don't you think The Substance is a film about aging? It's all about how Demi Moore hates being older. Her character hates being older. And then the Oscar going to a younger actress.
One, yeah.
I just thought there was
Certainly
an irony there that we're just not
justice,
talking about.
Of course.
An unfortunate irony.
Unfortunate. But let's see which one wins the best film. Fingers crossed for that. Tidas has her eyes on it.
Just adding to that, sometimes it's not the script back role that always gets it, because Demi Moore's role had everything. It was, it had all the crutches needed for a good performance. It had the drama, it had the emotion.
Okay, Anora winning the best film. Kunal, I'm so sorry
Kunal.
to interrupt you, but Anora has won the best film.
Wow. And everyone has gotten up to serenade this film.
And you know who's announced the best film for Anora? One of the most legendary couples of a film ever, of When Harry Met Sally.
Are we looking at Meg Ryan on stage? We missed her. We were not able to see.
With Billy Crystal. No, one sec. Who was the one sec?
Harry Met Sally is Billy
That's
Crystal.
Billy Crystal. Billy Crystal.
Yeah, it is Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. Yeah.
It is Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. I was right. There you go.
Yes.
Oh,
thank you for pointing that out.
The audience
That's beautiful.
has gotten up. Yeah.
So one of the most classic rom-coms ever is announcing this. Now, is it true that they didn't know that?
You're right.
Oh, so the director of Hum Tum? Okay.
No,
trust him to point that out.
Yeah, your point that, if they hadn't known that, why would they have, right?
Yeah, why? I'm sure they knew that. That's why they got them to...
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, because if you look at the 2020 Oscars, sorry, the 2021 Oscars, where everybody felt that Chadwick Boseman is going to actually win the Best Actor award. I remember David Fincher was the director of the ceremony, and he pushed the Best Actor Oscar to the end, which is usually reserved for the Best Picture Oscar, because he wanted that beautiful moment of a person who had passed away and his family coming up on stage and collecting the Oscar. But then it ended up, but Anthony Hopkins ended up winning, and Anthony Hopkins did not even attend the ceremony because he knew he's going to lose, because he knew that they'll probably give it to Chadwick Boseman. But then Anthony Hopkins ended up winning, and it became a very anticlimactic ending to the Oscars. So I do not believe that anybody knows who has won the Oscars, but there can be coincidences.
Okay. I mean, you would have had do you think you would have had the La La Land Moonlight mistake happen if everyone had sort of...
True, it wouldn't have happened, that mistake. And plus, since I've had the experience of being at the Grammys, there is absolutely no way to find out. Not even the Academy knows who has won, because it is the third party that actually tabulates the votes.
Ricky standing up for the institutions in the US and how they run their awards show. This has been a...
That's a very interesting take, because you were also talking about the entire selection process and how the voting really works, especially for best film for that matter. So there you have Conan O'Brien signing off, and we did see all of the people who have been associated and have been part of the films that were vying in for the top nod in the best film category. Everybody getting up to salute to Anora as the film has taken the biggest award tonight.
And does not come out in India.
Yeah.
So there's
that's an upset. And yet you watched.
Yes, but our Indian audiences, that's a film that you can possibly look out for. And speaking, Kunal, to what you were saying earlier, maybe it's a film that will come out now. I mean, who's to say, the ways in which these films will now get distributed. But we'd like to thank everyone who's been with us over the last few minutes. to stay with us, to watch everything. Kunal, and I do want to ask Kunal and Ricky, both of you, your final thoughts, because we want to know, now that we know, we're on the other side, we've done the hard stuff, no more asking you to guess who's going to win anything. Kunal, you'd said that this award is special because we celebrate the small films, and Anora has won as a small film, so it's huge. How do you see it?
Well, I think it's a wonderful time for Sean Baker. He's always had subjects that are very unusual and that people would not likely pick up. Whether it was Starlet or Takeout, they're very strange relationships between people and a lovely play between people. And I think that's just so wonderful. And I'm glad that the Academy has selected him, his cinema, his actress. And yeah, everyone's been backing Demi Moore. What I'd like to say about that, or what I was saying about her performance, was that it was a very script-backed performance. Everything was there on paper. Of course, she has to execute it. But in films like Anora, it's making every moment count. Where if the actress at that moment, in that scene, does not deliver, that scene will just fall flat. There's not that much support of drama, of the story that is giving you, which is there in substance. So I think that's the difference between the two performances. And having made a film like that in that genre and loving that genre, I know how difficult it is for that genre to work, and how difficult it is for people to understand that genre. For actresses, actors to perform in that genre is not as easy as it looks. You can call it rom-com, you can call it lighthearted, you can call it slice of life. It's a love story. It is the most difficult thing to do. It's very, very difficult.
And we never talk about that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, people don't talk about that. And I think that, and tonight at the Oscars, this morning for us, that being celebrated is such a wonderful thing. I'm glad they've done that. It brings cinema like that back into focus. Films like that are not being made. In the West, here in India, to forget it. No one wants to make films like that anymore. They all just want to make action films. That's a different debate. But I'm saying it's, for the Oscars to honor that is a very good nod for theatrical business of films like that.
Because it signals the kind of films we...
Yes, you can make films like that. You don't just have to look for superhero and Marvel DC films. Make those for sure, but those are not the only theatrical films that should be made. You have to get films like Anora out.
With an unknown face, with all unknown faces actually, I'd like to point out.
Exactly. It is cinema. Ultimately, cinema that works, whether it's Anora or it's 12th Fail or it's anything like that. It's not the name. Today, those names are spoken about. Today, everyone knows Medha Shankar of 12th Fail. Yesterday, we did. And that's, today, you have Anora winning so many Oscars and everyone, talking about them. Yesterday, you did. So I think that's the wonderful thing about the Oscars this year, is that it's brought the smaller films into focus, and it'll greenlight a lot more films in different genres, which is needed.
Ricky, I know that you began by talking about Mikey Madison winning the Best Actor, and considering she has done it so early on in her career, might just bring in a downfall as per stats. Talk about upsets now in this Oscar ceremony. What has that been for you now that the ceremony has just concluded? Something that you were really rooting for did not end up winning?
So first of all, I completely agree with every single thing that Kunal just said. And I think the smaller films winning matters a lot, simply because these films, the Oscar magic plays on them, and these films end up doing very well theatrically. In the past, there were two Indian-themed movies like Gandhi and Slumdog Millionaire, which actually did not have much of a box office haul to even speak about before they actually got nominated for the Oscars. But then after they got nominated, they made a huge amount of money, and then after they won a bunch of Oscars, they made even more money, and they became some of the biggest box office hits in history because of the Oscars. I see the same thing happening with Anora too. The only upset that I would say is that I really wanted Demi Moore to win, simply because I thought it was her time, and I felt that it would be a very strong statement when it came to actresses, female actors in the movie industry. And her speech at the Golden Globes was absolutely beautiful, and it really connected with me. And I felt that, that itself, showed how much she deserved it, and her performance was amazing. But I also agree with what Kunal said, that that Mikey, that the Anora performance was very, stripped down, and and it did not have all of the, all of the drama and all of the writing and all of that stuff to support her, and it was all her, when it came to her performance, and that is why I think she really held that film together beautifully, and she probably deserved it. So two thoughts about that, but I would have really liked it if Demi Moore won, and that would have made me very happy.
We're going to keep both of you with us. We're just going to give our audiences a very quick recap right now of all of the big awards right now. Best film, the one that we'd really been looking forward to, going out to Anora in a... As you can just see, we'll play out the visuals for you on your screen right now. There's Anora winning. You had Best Actor. Best Actor was taken home by Adrien Brody. He won it for The Brutalist. You also had Best Actress. That was an upset. That's what we talked about right now. It went to Mikey Madison. Incredible Mikey Madison for her beautiful portrayal of Anora, the titular character. But an upset to Demi Moore, who was expected to win it for The Substance.
And then, of course, the Best Director going to Sean Baker for Nora, and a speech that was very heartfelt, something that received a standing ovation, a moment, under the sun for Sean Baker there, to come out with a film like Nora and then end up winning the Best Direction for that same film, along with the Best Film and the Best Actress award. A big, big win for Nora there, with so many nominations in its kitty also.
You had Best Original Score, which The Brutalist took home. And we've spoken about The Brutalist a little earlier too, just what it means for The Brutalist to have taken home so many awards. Live action short, we're only pointing out to you because
another upset for India.
It was an upset, right? We were hoping Anuja would win, but Anuja did not take that home.
So so that's pretty much it. These are the Best Original Score, Emilia Perez. One film that was leading the nomination with 13. That was the nomination pack. But other than the Best Actress Award in Zoe Saldana, we did not really see much when it is about Emilia Perez. Maybe because of the controversy. It did not work
possibly
for the
because of the controversy, yeah. And documentary feature, you had No Other Land that won. No Other Land is the film we were telling our audiences about a little earlier. Where it was made reportedly by Israeli and Palestinian creators together, and they had actually gotten angry at the US for not showing the film in a proper manner. Documentary short, the only girl winning. This is the only girl in the orchestra, and as we told you a little earlier, it's all about how one young woman became the first to become a part of the New York Philharmonic, the first full-time woman instrumentalist.
Best International Feature from Brazil, I'm Still Here, and that's what got our colleague slightly wary on who's going to be winning the Best Actress Award. Whether the film goes ahead and wins that was also the conjecture, but it did go to the Brazilian film there. Best Production Design, Wicked. While we are in fact giving our viewers a lowdown on the big wins as far as the Oscars are concerned, let me also introduce Raja Sen, film critic, who's now joining us on the broadcast. Raja, your takeaways from the Oscars. Are you content with what you have seen so far?
Well, with what I've seen, I'll say it wasn't a good show. It wasn't entertaining. It wasn't glossy enough or exciting enough or really memorable as a show. But the fact that a film like Anora, such an independent and original film, did a clean sweep at the Oscars, victories for Mikey Madison, victories for Sean Baker, and Anora itself getting these major awards. That's a very good sign, when it's an independent film, when it is a young actress, these wins are wins that go a long way in defining the trajectory of Hollywood over the next few years. And Anora winning is very, very exciting.
So, Raja, on your right, our audiences are actually also looking at Kunal Kapoor. And Kunal, we didn't let you watch the film. I mean, we didn't let you watch the awards show. So I can't come to you with this question. But Raja, I can ask you, when you say the award show itself wasn't very fun, what are you talking about the hosting in particular?
I'm talking about the hosting. Conan O'Brien wasn't really on his game. I don't think the show itself had very many memorable moments, We usually have this big red carpet sort of feeling with the Oscars. We didn't really have that.
Yeah.
A few of the presenters, a few gags, but nothing that, if you didn't, Kunal, you haven't missed anything is basically the point.
But do you think is it because of the LA wildfires? It has really hit Hollywood the hardest this time around, and that's why we are seeing this lackluster show that Raja is talking about.
But I think, more than lackluster, I mean, I can't comment on that since I haven't seen it. But I think what I've been reading online and what I've been just watching as, when we went into breaks, I think what was really nice was the way, the tribute that they've given to the firefighters.
Yes.
The fact that they had the show. The fact that they had the show, the fact that they paid the tribute, I think those are wonderful things. And I think more important than the event was the messages they've sent out to filmmakers, to the encouragement they've given smaller filmmakers, newer filmmakers. That has been not necessarily newer in the case of Sean Baker, but but you know what I mean. The encouragement to newer talent and smaller films. I think that is more important than the show. Again, now talking about it, Raja just joined the conversation. We spoke about it briefly once. We just have a show. We have no meaning. We have no, pat on the back to people who've done a good service to society. We just have a song and dance. How does that help anybody? Except the actors who are paid a fat check for making a performance there. Sorry, my cat is peeking out in the background. I'll just have a cat.
Maybe she's excited for Honora.
Yeah, but so I think I'm not so concerned whether the show was good or not. What they did and what they achieved is what is brilliant.
All right, let's also go over Kunal. Can we keep you, Raja? We'll keep you. We're going to keep both of you. Anusha Srinivas Iyer back with us. Anusha, you said something very beautiful earlier when we were talking a little bit about India and where India is and just how India has grown. We spoke about that. Now, in this ceremony, there wasn't too much India representation. Anuja, as we said earlier, didn't get the nod that we were hoping for. But this year and what it has meant for Indian film, that has been huge. Right from All We Imagine Is Light and all of the recognition we saw it getting. To other films that we've seen, like Lapata Ladies, like 12th Fail we were talking about a little earlier. It's been a huge few months for Indian films. How do you see the future of Indian films in the Oscars? Hopefully next year a different story.
We will have an amazing future because they want to have breakfast with us. I mean, as simple as that. We really strive to make a position, but when a Lagan couldn't make it, and after that you had an RRR go, that itself signified a lot of strength and resilience for our country and how the world is perceiving us today.
Yeah.
And today, if the host wants to have breakfast of all the countries with India, that's a win by itself.
So, and that too in Hindi. Of course, but tell me something. We're talking about inclusivity. Toya just mentioned about Lapata Ladies. Sad that it missed out on the Oscar race, did not make it to the shortlist. But about the women really hailing and coming out really strong as far as this year's Oscars are concerned. We're talking about Mikey Madison or Honora, the film altogether. Which had a female lead, in fact, headlining that entire film. Speaks volumes about which way is the industry really headed.
There's also another very important thing, red carpets were always meant for page 3. And, you know about the industry, a lot of times the clothes get more news than the film by itself. But here it was very different, there people stood up for firefighters. There were people who actually clicked pictures with them. The Anura, they spoke for the sex workers. It is very important to stand up in a podium where people are listening to you and the entire world is and speak for a cause. Somewhere women have got their own costumes out there which are speaking for, their own films. There have been earlier where they have what they wanted to say against a particular thing. They have made it a part of their costume. So even the red carpet has become a sort of communicator for world rights, for inclusivity, for people who are marginalized. Like she spoke about being an immigrant, that makes a very big difference when you go out there and you have the guts to speak about it. And that makes a difference. You become the leader for a lot of people whose voice you become in that one moment. And then they find that strength in you to come out and talk. Right. Like, for example, a Lapata Ladies, win or not win doesn't matter. The fact that it was in the contention makes a huge difference for women who are still caught behind the ghungat, whether they like it or they don't like it. At the end of the day, it's not about the year we are going, we may be going into 2025, into 2030, but still the ghungat hasn't made way, So that is what it makes a difference. When such films make it to at least this space, it becomes the voice of millions of women in India.
Absolutely.
And
An interesting
that is
thought
where
there.
we were.
Absolutely. Anusha, thank you so much for sharing in your views and joining us on this Oscar coverage. Toya, it was fun.
It was so much fun. I hope you, our audiences, enjoyed it because I think we had a lot of fun. Right from red carpet coverage to guessing who would win to finally having that moment where it was funny. Right here, we were like, wait, is it Anora? Is it Anora? Oh, it is Anora and it is Mikey.
Yeah.
So that was really, really exciting. This has been a lot of fun.
Same here.
All right. Okay, with that, we're going to, since we've agreed,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. No. But since we've agreed, it's actually now 9 a.m. It is time now for you to eat your nashta, for us to eat our nashta. So you get some breakfast, we'll get some breakfast. Hopefully next time the Oscars will be entirely in Hindi. With that, we are drawing our show to a close. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Goodbye.
Hello, the excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access. Multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan bleachers are on the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air, and it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits are absolutely high, and we are all set for the biggest night in Hollywood.
So Tita's taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main award ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, I think Anora and the Brutalist sort of, I think they are leading across categories. Anora is of course is like a breath of fresh air, amid all the films that we have. It could be called a rom-com of sorts, and I'm looking forward to what's in store for Anora and the Brutalist, and I think Conan has really set the ball rolling. I think, he's made us all laugh. I think the jibes that he took at, Sophia or Adam Sandler, his banter with him, and of course the way Cynthia really started, the show with that fabulous, mesmerizing performance. And let's see what's in store. We saw so many, Hollywood A-listers already in the audience. There was Timothée Chalamet sitting with his girlfriend Kylie Jenner. I'm sure something really fun is in store for all of us. I cannot wait to see. The first category, by the way, has already been announced.
Right.
It's gone to Culkin, for a real pain, and his speech was really heartwarming. He dedicated the award to his wife. So let's see what's in store.
Him and his wife have been everywhere in social media in the last few days. If you're someone who watched The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, you'd remember who his wife is, Brenda Song. But I just want to very quickly tell our audiences that we've walked over the fashion. We haven't talked about the fashion we've seen over the last few hours. And Titas, Vishal, we'll just take a second to talk about that fashion. So you talked about Timothée Chalamet right now, showing up in a beautiful baby yellow suit, custom made for him, and just really, I think the men's fashion is always so exciting. It's something that's become more exciting in the last few years. There was also, as you said, Cynthia, who just gave the opening number. She turned up in a deep green Louis Vuitton gown. That was really exciting. But usually, Titas, tell us there's stories woven into the fashion. when celebrities choose the designer they wear for a big night, there's a story that comes behind it. They've typically worked with that designer over weeks, over months to choose that look. We just also saw Demi Moore wearing Armani Privé. She was my favorite look. She was probably everyone's favorite look. Looking gorgeous.
What do you have to say about Zoe Saldana?
In
I just
silver.
saw that. She's looking stunning as well.
So just tell us some of your favorite looks. Tell us if we already know. I know typically designers tell you the story, you know, in the next few hours they'll put up a post saying how they planned the story. But any looks for you that have stood out to us?
I think I completely agree with you. I think Demi, she really takes the cake. She looks stunning. And Timothée, of course. I love what he's wearing. The color, that is fabulous. You know what I'm actually looking for?
Well, after the glitz and glamour of Oscar coverage, we are now shifting our gears to bring you the latest updates. Good morning, viewers. Hello and welcome to CNN News 18's Morning News Show. I'm Conan Sharma and I'll be guiding you through all the latest news and updates from in and around the world. First up on top of this bulletin, we're tracking some updates on breaking input coming in from PM's office, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi on World Wildlife Day has posted on social media X, and PM Modi has said that let's reiterate our commitment to protect and preserve the incredible biodiversity of our planet. He said every species plays a vital role. Now let's safeguard their future for generations to come. Well, these are the latest inputs that we're tracking. Now, on World Wildlife Day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is leading the charge, and now let's explore how can we all contribute to protecting our planet's biodiversity. Joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Payal. A very good morning, Payal. Payal, what steps is the Indian government actually taking to protect the wildlife, especially with PM's message reiterating the preservation of wildlife coming right from the top honchos?
Well, the Prime Minister himself has been a huge advocate that you can't mess around with nature and you have to let nature and natural habitats be there for the wild. That's something which, of course, he's very, very elaborately discussed. And very important to say, he'll be in the Gir Sanctuary, which is, of course, home of Asia's lions, the biggest crop of Asiatic lions, which is, of course, in his home state, Gujarat as well. And here, you know, Kohina, the Prime Minister, is making an appeal to people that every species will play a very important part. And let's not mess around with the future for generations to come. And we should take pride in India's efforts to preserve and protecting wildlife. And essentially, you've seen the kind of efforts that are being made by the government of India. For example, in bringing in the cheetahs from across the globe to India to breed them, basically in places like Khana Park, among the others as well. India has a huge history of their tiger protection drive that has taken its leap and bounds progress under the Modi government. So obviously, an important message coming in for the youngsters in particular, saying that, there is, of course, a wildlife, heritage that we really have, and we should really try our best to protect it. Because, at a time when, of course, natural resources are depleting, and, of course, environment is also depleting in a manner that is not suitable to these animals, we should actually make an extra effort to protect their homes.
Right, Payal, thank you so much for bringing in all those details. We'll continue to track more on this report. But having said all of that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also leading the charge and urging us to reiterate our commitment to protecting our planet's precious wildlife. With that, we're now slipping into a very short break. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side of the segment.
Brought to you.
Hello, the excitement here is absolutely unreal. I have never seen this much security in my life. Hollywood Boulevard is completely shut down. No public access. Multiple LAPD vans have been stationed all around, and not just that. Helicopters are circling overhead to oversee security. The entire area is on high alert right now. Inside, the energy is electric. The fan bleachers along the red carpet are packed, and the stars have already started arriving. Well, you can just feel the anticipation in the air. And it is also a big day for Los Angeles. Tonight is not just about celebrating Hollywood's best, but also about recognizing the resilience of the city after the devastating wildfires in January. Speaking of unusual, the weather is definitely not what you expect in LA. It is much colder than usual, but that is not stopping anyone's spirits are absolutely high,
So Tita's taking back to the discussion from where it all started, talking about how this year's awards are really different. There are certain precursor awards that are given out by critics right before the main award ceremony. Most of those awards were going to Anora. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, I think Anora and the Brutalist sort of, I think they are leading across categories. Anora is of course is like a breath of fresh air, amid all the films that we have. It could be called a rom-com of sorts, I'm looking forward to what's in store for Anora and the Brutalist, and I think Conan has really set the ball rolling. I think, he's made us all laugh. I think the jibes that he took at, Sophia or Adam Sandler, his banter with him, and of course the way Cynthia really started, the show with that fabulous, mesmerizing performance. And let's see what's in store. We saw so many Hollywood A-listers already in the audience. There was Timothée Chalamet sitting with his girlfriend Kylie Jenner. I'm sure something really fun is in store for all of us. I cannot.
Hello and welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Well, now we are tracking some breaking inputs where the political world is now meeting the sports world, where Congress spokesperson Shama Mohammed has now sparked a controversy for calling Indian skipper Rohit Sharma fat for being a sportsman. She's even branded his captaincy the most unimpressive in the country's history. She went on to question his legacy compared to Indian cricketing greats like Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, MS Dhoni, Virat Kohli and Kapil Dev. The BJP has now hit out at the Congress over this entire remark. These are the latest inputs that we are tracking from the ground, where Congress has mocked the Indian captain Rohit Sharma, calling him fat for a sports person. Now let's hear out what the Congress leader had to say.
The comment made on Rohit Sharma's body not only falls in the category of fat shaming and body shaming, which should not be done, but Congress says that his track record is unimpressive. Here is a party whose captain Rahul Gandhi has given them 90 ducks, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6 times in Delhi. We have seen the performance and track record of their own captain, that 90 elections have been lost by them under his captaincy. The Congress party can't stand that India is winning matches. When India wins, and we have won against Pakistan, we have won against New Zealand, it seems that Congress party is very upset that India is winning the matches. And this is the negativity and the hatred for everything that is celebrated as the victory of India. They want to fight Indian state. They want to insult India's victories.
Well, joining us live is our colleague Sharon Elizabeth to weigh in on the entire controversy. A very good morning, Sharon. Sharon, can you tell us more about the Shama Mohammed's comment and how are the cricket fans actually reacting to this entire controversy?
Well, there's a lot of backlash, obviously, because the kind of statement that has been made by Congress spokesperson Shama Mohammed, because remember, it is a very random and bizarre statement that is coming in from a political spokesperson. She, in fact, last evening is when she tweeted about it, and she says that Rohit Sharma, and I quote, Rohit Sharma is fat for a sportsman, need to lose weight, and of course, the most unimpressive captain India has ever had. So this is, of course, not going to go down well with the Rohit Sharma fans, the cricket fans, and more importantly, the BJP has in fact attacking the Congress party on the statement that has been made by Shama Mohammed. They are in fact questioning the leadership of Rahul Gandhi, saying that Congress party has lost at least 90 elections and under the leadership of Rahul Gandhi. So how can a spokesperson of the Congress party go ahead and call someone as his captaincy as unimpressed? And not just that, we are seeing Radhika Khera of the BJP also in fact alleging that this is nothing but fat shaming that is being done. And in the tenure of the UPA, the sportsmen were never recognized. They were never given the appreciation or credit for bringing glory to the India, is the big allegation that is coming in from the Jagger go on stage, which was fascinating. I was like, wait, why is Mick Jagger on stage? I think he's actually giving out an award, I think, for best song, but we'll
Why do I
just
feel
wait.
I'm getting the short end of the stick here? I need an Oscar screen right here
TV.
because Toya's screen is right there. I can't look away. So
Right.
I'm really keen on knowing what is happening at the ceremony.
And who's
So
on
Toya.
stage?
Yeah.
And who's on stage? And it's just so exciting to see a legend like that return, you know, to give out an award like that. Wait, let's go back to Ricky to understand a little bit more. Ricky, I know we're coming to you with questions that are wide-ranging. You're a composer, so I want to kind of return to your roots with this next question. You were talking to us a little bit about the trickiness that comes with trying to compose the score for a milestone film. So something like a Wicked, where you actually have well-known songs, your audience can actually sing along, because Wicked, and our audiences may or may not know this, it's based on a musical. It's also the precursor to The Wizard of Oz. So it's something that's been part of Americana for years and years. And so in no way was that a surprise. So you were talking a little bit about the balance there. But tell us a little bit more, Ricky, about composing the score, composing music when it isn't such an obvious film. So Wicked has song pieces, but something like an Anora, where music plays a much subtler role. What would you say there? Or Dune. Dune's soundtrack in particular was talked about. The sounds where, you know, in Dune you have the creature that moves through the sand, the sound that it makes, that became iconic. Talk to us a little bit about what goes into that.
So in these cases, one has to just support the movie. That's the most important thing. One has to look at what the vision of the director is and support that vision.
Emilia Perez is just one best song. We just want to tell our audience.
Wow.
We just want to tell our audiences that a song from there. But yeah, do go ahead.
And Ricky,
Amazing.
you do share your thoughts about that, because that's another win for Emilia Perez.
Yeah, just one more in the long list.
Yeah.
So now it looks like it's neck to neck with Anora and Emilia Perez. So because now all eyes on the major award, that is the Best Picture award. Let's see what's going to happen over there. But both have got equal chances, in my opinion. But coming back to the score, one has to just support the director's vision and support the director's story. So sometimes the visuals itself and the dialogues itself convey a lot of the emotions and a lot of the story. So the music is just used as a supporting element to support all of that. Or sometimes the music is used as an overpowering element to bring in the magnitude, to bring in the scale, and to bring in the beauty of the movie. Like, for example, what happened with Dune. Even though Dune does not have too many hummable pieces like what you would have in a Jurassic Park or a Indiana Jones or a Pirates of the Caribbean, it was more about music used as a sound design element to elevate the film and to overwhelm the audiences with emotion. So music can be used in different styles and different ways, and it's always open to interpretation as to how to use it.
And Edward, about this latest win for Emilia Perez, first of all, I would obviously want you to weigh in on this, the kind of awards that the film is going on winning despite the controversy. And I know we end up talking about the controversy when talking about the 13 nominations for Emilia Perez, and they have ended up winning some of the big ones so far. Your views?
Well, yeah, you know what they say, there's no bad publicity. In fact, maybe bad publicity can be the best kind in some cases. I think the judging is just going on the merits of the film, and not looking at anything else perhaps. But Emilia Perez is definitely looking like the strongest film right now.
It really is, and it's exciting. The big question obviously is, will Emilia Perez notch in that, it had 13 nominations, will it notch in those numbers? And one thing it seems like everyone has agreed on, the reporters who've joined us, the experts earlier, is that it's possibly lost out on best film because of this controversy.
Yes.
So
yes.
that's still going to be interesting.
But yeah.
So you have Brutalist, I think, that is leading the charge. You have Anora too.
We will also talk about Conclave, because so far
we've strayed away from talking about Conclave.
Nobody's talking about Conclave, surprisingly.
Although it is a tightly made, excellent drama, we'll talk a little bit more about it and just what it's made on, because it's about the process of choosing a pope. It's a very, very interesting film. But we'll see you in just a few moments. The Breakfast Club's coverage of the Oscars continues right here with Griha and I. We'll see you in just a few minutes.
We have have just seen how Zoe Saldana has won the award for Best Supporting Actress, given that really emotional speech at the Oscar stage. Toya, did it remind you in any way to that speech of Halle Berry's when she won the Best Actor?
Oh, how beautiful! And I love that comparison because
Yeah.
when she won the award, it was historic, obviously
Yes.
for different reasons.
Yes.
I think with Halle, we were so excited for her to win, and then she went on. She of course looked like a total babe, and had that award in her hand, and it was a tearful speech. Zoe, actually, that comparison between the two of them has been made before, but this, I think, the fact that she chose to highlight a political note, it was very pointed.
Yes.
And to be honest, with our audiences, this is the most you're going to see politics brought in. Politics stays away from the Oscars largely, apart from larger conversations around diversity that we've seen.
If you don't have a Meryl Streep, that is winning the award.
But apart from diversity and inclusion that we've seen such a large conversation around, and we've seen the Oscars address it over the last few years in a big way. But this might be the most symbolic moment in that sense that we might see tonight. So,
but what you
this
have
could
to
be
say,
interesting.
Toya, since we were on political speeches or anything remotely political that's being said on the Oscar stage, very recently we saw something unprecedented happen at the White House. Do you think any of that would find mention in any way at the Oscars?
I don't think so. I can see your smile right now, but the only reason I don't think so is I think that actors, cinematographers, filmmakers, they work their lives for this moment. So I think even when they do put out a message, they are very calculated and particular, that even the message doesn't, overtake their own